Good morning to you. Rail strikes on the way.
Train drivers announce new strikes, and Border Force staff also say they're going to walk off the job.
All this only days after the Prime Minister promised them a massive pay rise.
Police on standby across the country as anti-immigration protests and counter-protests are planned for Dover and Birmingham.
Is there a ceasefire in sight? Well, foreign secretaries in the US, France and UK travel to Israel as world leaders try to negotiate for peace.
Harry and Meghan continue their DIY royal tour of Colombia as they visit local schools and sports clubs.
And new details emerge of Matthew Perry's last days as 5 are arrested over his death.
A new dawn or a false dawn? It might be a while before we find out for sure, but Manchester United did at least make a winning start to the Premier League last night. We'll hear about that as well as all the other opening day matches.
I have some good news if it's fine and warm weather you're after, with plenty of it this weekend. Stay tuned for the full forecast.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I hope I don't look too stressed this morning.
Oh, why?
Mother-in-law arrived last night with my friend.
Yeah.
No, lovely. I mean, we all get on very well.
Just because it's the words mother-in-law, isn't
It's
it?
Les Dawson.
It is Les Dawson's fault that we've got this thing because my mother-in-law was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Well, my mother-in-law is wonderful, but the party in the garden last night went on.
Well, of course, you had to go to bed early.
And the vodka was being consumed.
Oh, how lovely, because it was lovely weather yesterday.
It was lovely, so we had a nice little fire and what have you. Yeah. But and I've got more in-laws arriving today.
Oh, my goodness. Well, good. Good. I was going to say good luck, but that sounds wrong,
They're all going to be there by the time I get home from work.
And they'll all think...
Oh, they are lovely. They are lovely.
Boring old thing, Stephen, is he goes to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
What time did you actually...
It was...
exit the garden?
9:15.
Ooh, that's late.
It was late.
Very dodgy.
It was late, but then I just left them to hear the giggling and more vodka being pulled
Is there
out the
a
fridge.
reason that the families all sort of get on together?
No.
It's not a big birthday or an anniversary or anything?
Just coming down and using...
Oh, that's lovely.
The Dixon Hotel.
Yes, of course. It's nice, though,
It's nice, though, isn't it, when
You'd
family
hate
all
it if
get
they didn't
together.
come.
Oh,
Yeah,
we would.
Absolutely. Look, I know that we're going to talk about strikes in a minute, which are really going to affect travel. And I'm going away soon, and I really hope I get there, because it's a very important wedding I've got to get to.
Oh, yes.
But luckily, we planned to go out 24 hours earlier anyway than we're needed. So, if we have to sleep on a hotel floor, a hotel airport floor, then I guess we've got the time to do it. I'm not looking forward to it. But it was just interesting. I saw in the Times, they've done a thing about what you take on holiday with you. They've asked a load of very, very important chefs. For instance, Raymond Blanc always takes a jar of the best Dijon mustard, because he said no matter where you are, you can sort of do anything with that. You can turn a very ordinary salad into something special.
Right.
You've got the best mustard. What do you take on holiday?
Nothing.
You don't?
Nothing.
You don't take
not
particular tea bags or...
No.
Really? What about you, Aidan?
Probably teeth whitening kit. That's important.
You take your teeth whitening kit on holiday?
Yeah, it's important. I don't want them sort of discolouring while I'm away, you know. You want to be look good in your photos. I think it's important. I really do. And then obviously taking your diabetic stuff as well is difficult, isn't it?
You've got to take
No, you
medicines.
have to, but it can be quite problematic sometimes getting it through security.
Do you have... Yes, I was going to say, do you have to have a special doctor's letter to...
No, not
take
really. If you
stuff
store it in the
through
right
security?
place, but the first few years I just couldn't get my head around it.
Yeah.
So there was quite a reasonable explanation for it, where to put it. But yeah, I've been through a few airport staff securities and having to get various contraptions out, which wasn't very comfortable.
One of my sister always takes tea bags.
Yeah.
And a travel kettle.
And a kettle.
Yeah.
And...
what else did I say earlier?
iron.
Oh, and a travel iron. I mean, most of the places you go have irons, but she doesn't trust them, so she takes her own.
But they're quite small, aren't they, some of the ones you get in hotels and elsewhere?
But a travel iron
and
will
they've
be
been battered about a bit. But and some cruise ships won't let you take the electrical things on, because obviously they have to have, it has to be compliant with their rules and regulations.
She'll be taking a toaster next.
So, yes, she would, if there was a travel toaster. I haven't come across a travel toaster. That's a very good Christmas present. I'll look one up.
Honestly.
But yeah, and getting them through, when they scan your suitcases and things.
You see, we haven't got. We're going away in September, and literally it will be, one of them little ones that you just put in the cabin bag. One of those for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's it. Just roll everything up.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I'll tell you what I looked for the other day, something to try and maintain the fizz in drinks, because as soon as you put ice in there, and you pour the fizzy drink on top, it just loses the fizz, doesn't it?
You have to use those plastic cubes. I've tried that. You just end up diluting your drink.
I just went on Amazon and thought, there's got to be something out there. Someone's got to have
Except that if you're in a hot climate, it's good to have lots of ice in your drink, because you're actually getting more water in then.
Oh, true, yeah.
Get one of them soda things.
No,
but does it keep? Yeah,
no, but you just refizz it.
No, I know, but it's when I like ice in the drinks, and the ice just.
I do as well. I like lots and lots of ice in drinks, but I always look at it. I either drink it quickly before the ice melts, or let the ice melt, because then you're diluting your drink a bit and
it's no bad thing.
Taking on a certain amount of water.
Your drinks never last long enough for the ice.
They don't usually. No.
Come on. Be realistic about
this. This is all pie in the sky, because you might not get there if you're going.
No, the Prime Minister is under pressure because of the pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors. James Cleverly from the Conservatives says the government's been played by its union paymasters.
Well, do you think so? Train drivers on LNER are going to stage a series of strikes now, claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and the breaking of agreements. Now, hundreds of members of ASLEF will walk out every Saturday between the end of this month, I think, for a total of 22 days.
Let's talk to travel guru Simon Calder, who's here. Morning, Simon.
Good morning.
How can ASLEF members be announcing strike action a couple of days after they've agreed a settlement over strike action?
It was 39 hours, actually. I timed it because I was just finishing an article about, we got the strikes out of the way. We're in the third summer of strikes by train drivers. Now we've got these 1 million problems about the railways we've got to sort out. And then suddenly we're going on strike again. I literally couldn't believe it. This is a completely separate dispute to the pay dispute, which was settled very, very quickly by effectively throwing money at the problem, giving the drivers what they wanted, which was what amounts to a 15% pay rise over 3 years without any strings attached. So they managed to get that all settled. The train drivers are voting on it, but everybody assumes that it will be given an overwhelming majority. This is a separate dispute, as Anne says, about working arrangements, about relationships on the East Coast Main Line. This is LNER. It runs from London to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. And it's not actually just Saturdays. From the 31st of August, and that's a date we'll come back to, I think, in a minute, it will be every Saturday and Sunday until the 10th of November. 22 days, as you say, and this isn't just any old line. This is the UK's flagship railway line at a time when so many people, whether they're families, whether they're holiday makers, whether they're students, absolutely depend on that line. And it was quite interesting to see how Louise Haigh, the Transport Secretary, reacted, which is, this sounds terrible. They really must talk to each other. LNER sort it out. She doesn't have to go very far to find the people who are running LNER, because it's her office, the Department for Transport, actually controls LNER. So it's not this great narrative that's been playing out all the way through the election campaign. Privatised companies, they're terrible. This is one which is already in public ownership.
Which makes all this sound political. I mean, is there a real problem with LNER that does need to be sorted out? Or is this the union flexing its political muscle here?
There's a couple of things, and I think both of those are right, actually. There are clearly at LNER, because they've had rather more conflicts within that train operator than others. There are problems which I think need to be addressed. And of course, LNER says, we haven't been bullying anybody. We're talking to them and we're going to get this sorted out. But there's very, very bad blood, toxic industrial action there, but it's also, I think, there's a political aspect, which is that, well, look at that. That was easy. We got 15%. What are we going to go after now? We are, and this is the mindset. And we also heard, of course, Mick Lynch of the bigger rail union, the RMT, saying they've just got 15%. That's more than we got. Where's ours, please? And the sense
they've settled, haven't they?
They settled, but now they're coming back for more because, understandably, you're a guard and you're thinking, well, hang on, I can't remember the exact percentage, but let's say 13%. The guy at the front, or the woman at the front, has got 15%. I'd like some more, please. And I think we're going to perhaps see more of that. And there is this sense which the rail unions have always had, which is that the railways are too important to fail. If you just keep striking long enough, you will get what you want. And, well, that seems to have played out. But ultimately, I have done the working on this, £240 per second being paid by the government, by taxpayers, to keep a pretty ramshackle railway going. I think taxpayers, people who'll be watching this, never go near a train, some of them. They're thinking, how much are we paying and what are we getting? It's a tough, tough time.
On top of all of this, what's going on with Border Force?
31st of August again. We've got 650 members of the UK Border Force belonging to the PCS union working on passport control at Heathrow Airport, walking out on another strike. Now, we've seen over the past few months several strikes involving this group of workers. It's all about rosters. So it's not about pay, it's about the rosters that officers work and how well they might align with people's lifestyle needs and changes that are being made. So that's the background to it. The impact is going to be they're going to have 4 days of strikes from, 2 weeks today, Saturday, 31st of August, through to the following Tuesday. Now, they haven't just picked that at random. That is when you are going to get the biggest surge of inbound holiday
families
makers.
coming home back from their holidays
and families
in time for school.
is exactly the significant thing, because actually in the previous industrial action, we've had 7 days of it, we've been talking about it, hasn't had much impact at all. And that's because almost everybody these days comes through the e-gates. If you've got family members under 10, they can't. And I guess the thinking is, OK, well, we're going to have more families, so therefore we're going to have more impact. The Home Office says we have robust contingency plans in place and we want to keep on talking.
OK. Simon?
Go on. I'm contractually obliged to say that if you follow Roman Blanc's idea and you take your Dijon mustard, it must be under 100 millilitres if you're packing it in your carry luggage.
That is very important.
Yeah.
And what do you take on holiday? Well,
Tea bags.
Tea bags?
Well, it depends where I'm going. Obviously, they can
you're going all over the world all the time.
But if you're going to Ireland, if you go to Australia or New Zealand, you can get OK tea.
Yes,
if you're in India, you get fantastic tea. It's a different tea, but that's great. Everywhere else, they don't know. So you've got to take them.
Yeah, so you take your own.
Well, there you go.
And your travel kettle.
No.
So that you can boil the water.
No. All right, Simon, thank you very much indeed. Are we a soft touch now for the unions? Is that just what... I was sort of thinking, well, at least Labour's settled this. At least it's sort of one... They've got it settled.
Front page lead. I mean, you would expect this, I suppose, from the Daily Mail, but it's a moot question, is it not? Has Labour lost control of the unions already?
It certainly sounds like, doesn't it?
Those of us who were broadcasting in the 80s remember this all too well, when the unions start to really flex their muscles, and even a Labour government, which you would think would know how to cope with them, doesn't.
Well, let us know your thoughts, gbnews.com/yoursay. Now, police forces will be on alert today amid planned protests and gatherings across the country. Anti-immigration protests are expected in Dover and Birmingham, while the campaign groups Stand Up to Racism are also going to take to the streets.
And this all comes as new data reveals 460 people now have been arrested in connection with the violent disorder earlier on, as hundreds now face their day in court.
Let's talk to Media and Advocacy Manager at Samfire, Kay Marsh. Good to see you this morning. And I know you work with immigrants coming in, don't you? I mean, what's the sense down there in Dover? I mean, clearly there is a lot of anger in the nation about what is happening now, and it is coming to some sort of head. Do you understand that frustration?
I certainly understand frustration, but I don't think that that is any reason to be going out causing such violence and hatred. You know, we have a demonstration planned today in Dover. It's going to be very peaceful, just loving, caring people joining together in love. There's going to be no violence, no unrest. You know, you can put your message across a lot better if you stay calm and peaceful.
Absolutely, and one would hope that everybody agrees with that. Do you worry, though, that simply because you are where a lot of migrants are coming in and there's a lot of strong feeling, that any sort of demonstration, peaceful as you want it to be, could flare up?
I have full confidence that at least our demonstration is going to stay peaceful, because that's the sort of people that we are. We've had several sort of threats of far-right violence down in Dover recently that have come to absolutely nothing. So it's said that we have a lot of negativity down here and a lot of hate, but when it actually comes to it and these events and these rallies that the far-right put out, nobody shows up, nobody comes down. We get maybe a handful of red-faced angry men, and that's about it, you know, and they're met with sort of a large group of anti-racist, caring people like us just saying, we don't want you here.
Yeah, I tell you what worries me slightly, because, I mean, the violence is one thing. There are still plenty of people who are protesting peacefully about not unhappy with the state of affairs. Why is it that you have to sort of say you're anti-racist? You're not implying that everyone who has concerns about immigration is racist, are you?
No, but I think, you know, you'd be silly to say that what's been going on over the last couple of weeks hasn't been out and out racist. You know, there have been very innocent people targeted, innocent communities targeted over race. So, you know, the violence and unrest that we've seen has very much been racist. So any counter demonstration to that is going to be very adamantly anti-racist, isn't it?
OK, well, we'll leave it there and hope that your hopes that everything will be peaceful today, indeed, we hope that's how it turns out. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you.
Now, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have spoken to school children in Spanish. I don't know why that matters.
Aren't they clever?
Very good. As their 4-day tour of Colombia continues.
Yes, Harry and Meghan took part in an art session and planted trees during a visit to the school in the capital, Bogotá. Their arrival was celebrated with performances from students who wore traditional Colombian dress and performed songs with live percussion.
Let's talk to royal broadcaster Helena Chard, who joins us now. Good morning to you.
Hi, Stephen and Anne.
This does seem like a royal visit, doesn't it? I mean, the way they're handling themselves and what they're being treated to, if you like.
Goodness, do you know, it does seem like a dressed up royal tour. I mean, the optics are indicative of that. It really is quite distasteful, I feel, and it's everything that they speak about. You know, it's so hypocritical. You know, the speaking, it's great to speak to children. I mean, I think we all, as individuals in the world, need to support children, and obviously cyberbullying and online safety. But, you know, what on earth is going on? I mean, I just feel it's just so disrespectful towards our royal family as well. You know, what do you do with Harry and Meghan? For me, it just seems a problem. And I know that they've been invited by Miss Marquez, but it's birds of a feather flock together, it seems. And it's like their glory moment, I feel, all of them, everything from the security and the police convoys and everything that's going on. But you know, there is a degree of ignorance, and I think we've seen Prince Harry, the things that he's mentioned. He alluded to Elon Musk, really, and made some ignorant statements about the riots in the north. And then we have Meghan and Harry talking to children, and they're all listening and looking and very excited with their big eyes wide open, where they say things like, well, you know, if you don't have anything good to say, then, you know, don't say anything at all. I mean, the irony when you see what has been talked about in their documentaries. Some of their online supporters that have even donated money. When you've looked into a certain person, they have talked online so awfully about the lovely Princess of Wales. It's everything that they're doing. It's just so hypocritical, and I don't really, what do I say? I can't get to the bottom, because every little strand of everything they're doing is, you can pick it to pieces, and it's obviously a glory trail for them. It is the Meghan show. It seems that Miss Marquez is very in awe of Meghan, and Meghan obviously of her, and it just gives them their PR platform. But of course, online safety is a big issue, and we should all be talking about it. But they are not an online authority. They're not an authority at all with online safety, and nor is Archewell. And there's lots. We're all waiting to see what happens, and the other things that they're going to attend. But, I think the whole security issue as well that's happening here, the things that Harry keeps dropping about security, and there they are in Colombia. As we all know, it's so dangerous. And it seems a lot of the political figures, including Miss Marquez, I mean, they have they've all been attacked. I mean, there's lots going on. It's probably the most dangerous situation than being with her. Although I do hear that she's got huge security around her anyway, so it makes sense that she is with them, so that the security will be huge. But the irony when he's fighting for automatic right for police protection in the UK, again, completely disrespectful, because of course they would be given police protection in the UK. They just don't have automatic right. They just have to be able to say, we're coming to the UK. And of course they'll be given it. But it's, again, distasteful, disrespectful. I could say lots more.
I don't think you're a fan, Helena. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
It's definitely the Meghan show, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's extraordinary, isn't it? But there you go. That's the way they want to do things now.
Oh, right, should we have
question why, I suppose.
Well, yeah.
I just,
Want to be in the limelight. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom at 6:22.
Well, 2 men have received the longest prison sentences yet in relation to rioting that erupted in parts of England and Northern Ireland after the Southport stabbings. 48-year-old David Wilkinson was jailed for 6 years, and 25-year-old John Honey received a sentence of 4 years and 8 months. More than 1,000 people have been arrested so far over the disorder, with around 480 charged and at least 99 sentences handed down.
Ukraine has destroyed a strategically important bridge over the River Seine as they continue their incursion into Kursk in Russia. The bridge is used by the Kremlin to supply troops and links the area of Kursk, which is still controlled by Russia. President Zelensky confirmed the Ukrainian troops were strengthening their positions in the region.
Amid rising tensions in the Middle East, there is renewed hope that a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas may be on the horizon. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, was in Israel yesterday alongside his French counterpart, whilst the US Secretary of State arrives today. President Biden, speaking to the media only a few hours ago, said he was optimistic.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we got a shot.
And if you want to avoid anti-tourist protests that are popping up in Barcelona and Magaluf, I'd say don't go.
Yes.
North Korea is reopening its doors to tourists after years of lockdown. Tour companies have said the border into parts of the northeast of the country and possibly the rest of the country will open for the first time in more than 4 years. Have a great time.
I think everybody walks like that in North Korea.
Oh, it's required. Why would you want to go to North Korea? I mean, really, why would you want to go?
Well, I know some people love to travel and see places, but why would you want to go for a holiday? I don't know.
And you're not just going to be allowed to go wherever you want.
No.
It's going to be monitored.
I think I'd be terrified as well of doing something. I mean, as a journalist, you wouldn't want to go anywhere. If it said journalist on your passport, you could be arrested for being a spy or something, couldn't you? But I think there are lots of instances where you'd have to be so careful, and you'd almost not know how you are offending them or how you are appearing to them. I wouldn't want to end up in jail. No,
because if they bang you up for whatever they want.
Yeah.
And then how on earth do you get out? It would be a diplomatic nightmare.
There will be people who will want to go just to see what it's like.
Well, good luck to you. Enjoy yourself. Have a whale of a time. We'll see you in about 15 years.
Oh.
Right, let's have a look at the weather for you with Alex.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe one or two coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but one or two are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, there's 2 weeks just left to go to get your entry in for our £30,000 Great British Giveaway, the biggest prize we've given away so far this year. Here are the details of how to enter.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours, but time is ticking. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Now, still to come, Aidan McGee will take us through all the sport. That's next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Free Speech Nation. Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
Have we reached a tipping point in the gender wars? So 6 years ago, comedy writer Graham Linehan, the man who created hit sitcoms such as Father Ted and Black Books, was cancelled for standing up for the rights of women. But have things actually got any better? Well, I'm delighted to say that Graham Linehan joins me now. Just in case anyone's watching who doesn't know what happened to you, what happened?
Well, I just noticed women being bullied online and in you know, physical space as well, and I started objecting to it. I immediately started losing work.
And this was just on Twitter or social media?
Yeah.
Just making that point?
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, I had what I thought was a bit of a kind of safety net in the Father Ted musical, which I saw as my pension.
Yes.
And finally, that was taken away too by my spineless colleagues, I'm afraid.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? Because, you know, Father Ted, one of the most famous sitcoms of all time, the musical, a surefire hit.
Yep.
Still hasn't been produced.
Yeah.
Still being held hostage by Hat-Trick Productions, who are the people who have the rights. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's a combination of things. It's because they're terrified of activists. They have activists within the company, and they don't have enough interest in the women in their lives to investigate the issue.
Are they just afraid that it might happen to them as well?
I don't know. I think it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of fear. I genuinely don't think they have enough curiosity or empathy with women to actually look into the issue. They seem to think that women's rights, as people like Alistair Campbell often say, are a culture war issue. And, you know, we've seen it reach its apex, really, in that this week, and for 10 days, I think it is, we've seen men hitting women, punching women in the boxing ring.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Right, let's have a look at all the sport this morning. Aidan's here. Good morning to you,
Good
sir.
morning to you both.
It's interesting, United had a good night last night, despite the fact Ten Hag was saying, oh, we're not ready.
Yeah, that's right. He said the day before, actually, that the side wasn't quite ready. I did feel it was kind of getting excuses in first because they've got quite a tough opening few weeks. But, you know what, it's difficult to have sympathy for these big clubs, Anne, who... They complain about the players not being right. It's the same as any other big club. They've all had players at the Copa America. They've all had players at the Euros. The season didn't finish that long ago, so there's always the issue with recovery, especially as a number of games have to play. And they're the ones who take themselves in the summer across the other side of the world to play these lucrative friendlies. So the money's there. So the fitness can't be that important. Can't be certainly not more important than the money. Nonetheless, they got off the mark last night. They scored a winner 3 minutes from time against Fulham. And this guy called Joshua Zirkzee scored the winning goal. £36 million signing from Bologna over the summer. And a headline writer's dream, quite frankly. I mean, I've just listed the one in the Daily Star. Z-Wiz and the Sun, they went for top of the league. Now, they're top of the league on account of nobody else having played so far. So it is a little bit disingenuous from that point of view. But United in the summer had this football review. Even Stephen at the end of last season was saying there's no way Erik Ten Hag would survive. But the reason he survived, Dan, is because they just couldn't find anybody else. They couldn't. Yeah. And so he feels as if he's hung out to dry. But because they had to go back to him, he feels a little bit empowered now. He said, well, I'm your only option. So therefore, I'm going to call a few shots. So they've signed a few players.
I don't blame him. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, inadvertently, you can force yourself into, or you can find yourself in a position of power, can't you?
This is Zirkzee. How do you spell his name?
Zirkzee. So he's Dutch. He's been playing in Italy for a few years. He was brought on last night after about an hour because, to be honest with you, Fulham were forcing the better openings, and anything other than a win for United on opening night at home to Fulham, which is a fixture they normally win. They didn't win it last season, but normally they win it. It would have been a disaster for them, and it would have piled the pressure on the manager straight away before anyone else has even kicked a ball outside of the two sides that played last night.
Are there any Brits in the team?
Yeah, there are Brits in the team.
It just seems to me there's so many names cropping up that, you know...
Well, it's been that way for years. I mean, Harry Redknapp had a side in West Ham in 1996, which was made up of players from all over the world, and so the team was almost renamed West Ham United Nations. But it's quite common now for us to see players from all over the world
Yes, I
playing.
know.
3 new signings on show last night as well for United. And you know what? It's 11 years, Stephen, since they won the Premier League. So
Is it really?
It is. So the pressure's on them even more so than it was under Sir Alex Ferguson, because they've just not won. They're just under pressure to end that way, and I don't see them doing it this season either.
What else? What have we got happening today?
Well, I've picked out Ipswich v Liverpool at 12:30, not just because it's an attractive fixture in its own right, but we're seeing Ipswich in the top division. It's a great little town in Suffolk, and I was actually working there when they were last in the Premier League. This is how long ago it was, in 2002. 22 years since that town has seen Premier League football. We're going to hear from one of their former players later on this morning, but it's going to be fantastic for them. It's good when you see a different name that you've not seen in the Premier League for a long time. Luton we saw last year, of course, they made a good fist of it, went down in the end, but hopefully Ipswich will be doing the same. They've made some decent signings as well. And of course, Liverpool in action, as I mentioned. Arsenal, they'll be looking to get off to a strong start as well. They've got opportunities to do it. No kind of really big six versus big six fixtures. I think they like to keep them for later in the season when things warm up. But one thing about the opening day, Stephen, is that because teams have had a while off, you've got new signings bedding in, you do sometimes get freak results. So I'm looking out for a couple of those today.
We better have a little look at Cameron Norrie, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I'm disappointed at this because he got to the third round at Wimbledon just a few months ago, and
well, he's got an injury, basically.
I know, yeah, I know, and I just feel his career's stalled a bit this year. He was a late starter, and he meant to be gaining momentum. Of course, it's no fault of his own. Although in the first few months of the year, he didn't have a particularly good start. He didn't really have the best form going into Wimbledon. As I said, third round. I would have expected him, having gone to the semi-final the year before, I would have expected him to go a bit further than that. But it's a forearm injury which kept him out of the Olympics, which is going to keep him out of the US Open as well, which starts on August the 28th.
These big tennis players, the ones that really get through, and obviously they have to put in so many, years and years of hard work, they do end up with bad injury problems, don't they?
They do indeed, especially when they're specialists on the
forearm injury. In tennis, you can't imagine anything much worse.
I know. Well, it's also about recovery. I mean, there's no two forearm injuries are the same, I imagine. But it's how long it takes to recover. Sometimes it needs surgery. And look at the schedule. It didn't help this year. It's not every year you get an Olympics, but when we crashed from French Open into Wimbledon, into Olympics, into the US Open, that's a hell of a schedule, because that's basically, I mean, the Olympics you probably consider to be the fourth or fifth Grand Slam. So it's a hell of a lot of demand on their schedule.
Poor things. Yeah,
it's a shame, isn't it?
Well, they do. If you look at any of the big tennis players, they are absolutely haunted with injuries.
Yeah, they
are.
Also, with Andy Murray retired as well, there's just one less of a British interest in.
Yes, so there's a lot of pressure on the ones we have.
Indeed,
yeah. Is he British number? Would you still call him British number 2?
Yeah, we could still call him that. Yeah.
Is he number 1 now? Who's number 1 then?
Number one would be Jack Draper, I think, but I can check on that.
Oh right. Talking about people who are too busy with their sport, people who aren't busy enough, is Chris Eubank Jr. He's not active enough.
No, he's not. Well, he's been spending too much time in playing poker in Vegas. That's the problem. I've known this syndrome outside of boxing, I'll be honest with you. In fact, just in general life, people spending too much time in Vegas. But yeah, 11 months ago, he records this stunning victory over Liam Smith. It was a revenge victory, and it's the first time I've really seen him, Stephen, show what he's worth, show what he could really do. The pressure was on him, and he produced a stunning performance to avenge that initial defeat by Smith. And so I expect him to kick on. I expect him to fight against Canelo Alvarez, who hasn't lost in 11 years. And so if you're going to face Alvarez, you need to be in top condition. I would fancy if he's sitting in casinos in Vegas for 11 months enjoying the fruits of his last victory, he probably isn't in the best nick.
How long's he got to get himself?
Well, it depends. I mean, there's no fight, there's no schedule planned, but you know he's got to let the promoters know, I guess. I mean, you can't have a situation where Tyson Fury, we kind of knew why he was waiting because he wanted the Saudi season to come in. That's where the big money come in. We remember when Carl Froch beat George Groves. He's always said, "I'll let the promoters know when I'm ready to come back." He never did come back. He eventually decided to call it a day. I hope Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't do that, because one of the things about him is that he's burdened by the name of his father.
Yeah.
And it's just it's inevitable. But I'd like to see him forge his own reputation in his own right. I wouldn't like to just see him go out on the back of a few bad cards being dealt to him in Vegas.
Okay.
It's a really interesting subject, isn't it? As whether you're called, if your father was called Stephen Dixon, I don't suppose he is.
No.
If you're the junior version,
Yeah.
are you always sort of haunted slightly by that person.
You would be, wouldn't you?
I think most sports stars I know would say that you are. They wouldn't necessarily talk about it in public, but I think this, how can it not be?
Yeah.
Mind you, Redknaps have done all right out of it.
Oh, they have definitely. But
Yeah,
then
but
Harry.
there's another Harry Redknapp.
No, there isn't. But I mean, even the Redknapp name. Having said that, Jamie probably did have a better playing career than Harry did. He never went into management, Jamie.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for him. I imagine he probably saw the stress it took, the toll it took on his father.
Yeah. Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah,
We'll see you a little bit later on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, actually, if you've got the name of your parent. Is that a problem? Don't know whether it would be or not. Anyway, do get in touch with us. Tell us your story. In a moment, we're going to be going through the front pages and the stories inside the papers with Claire Muldoon and Kevin Schofield, so don't go anywhere.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Alex, can you tell us about Tom Cruise's diet?
Tom Cruise's diet, I mean, so there was the story today in the Daily Mail talking about the fact that obviously, you know, the guy has a very, very strict diet. He pretty much has no alcohol in his diet, has very strict times he eats. He only eats meat and fish.
Isn't happy.
And actually, can I just say, I think this is very depressing. You know, life is short. I don't know why people have... And lots of my friends who go to the gym, they're absolutely obsessed with only having chicken and rice and barely any sauce on it. It's just, what's the point, you know?
You make a good point. Life is short. What do they...
And so is Tom Cruise.
YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah, YOLO.
But then you can live your life as you want to live it. So if you want to live it the healthiest person ever in the whole world, then, you know, that's your one life.
But you raised a great point in the meeting today, which is 64 old anymore? It's not, sort of 62. It's not old, is it?
No.
62 is the new 40.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, don't you think Tom Cruise is a multi-millionaire? Doesn't he want to just, like, relax and enjoy his life now? Why is he still getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym and eating chicken breast with no sauce on it?
OK, Tom Cruise is another one of these driven people. Tom Cruise is absolutely 100% driven to drive a fighter pilot aeroplane. I mean, how could you actually learn to drive a plane? He is so driven, he is so disciplined, and when you're that disciplined, you know about blood, alcohol, sugar spikes. I bet you he drinks vinegar. Bet you any money he's into gut health. I'm telling you, gut health is in. Everyone's talking about gut health.
But what's the point when you're 62?
No,
I'm hoping when I'm 62 that I'll just chill out.
He doesn't.
No way.
He doesn't need the money
Eat
either.
some
He
donuts.
can just chill. Like,
no, he
life
doesn't
is
want to chill. He so doesn't want to chill. I tell you what, in Hollywood, because my husband's a film producer, in Hollywood, you know when they retire? They're either 90 or they're dead.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
6:43, morning to you. Let's have a look at some of the newspapers for you today. And the Mail leads with Sir Keir Starmer being accused of losing control of the unions as rail barons announce new strikes.
The Times leads with the hopes for an end to travel disruptions being dashed after rail and airport strikes are announced.
The Telegraph leads with the Crown Prosecution Service admitting evidence presented in the Lucy Letby case was wrong.
The Guardian leads with Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary now, announcing plans to set up a new unit to prevent violent crime amongst young people.
And the Express has fearful pensioners saying they'll have to choose between heating and eating after the winter fuel payment was cut.
Well, joining us now to go through what's making the news is journalist Claire Muldoon and political editor at HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. And a very good morning, to you.
Morning.
Claire, we're starting by looking at that Daily Mail front page. Has Labour lost control of the unions already?
Yeah, we wonder if that is quite the headline, don't we? And we wonder if, in fact, it's true. I think Labour are starting to give the unions what they want and give the workers what they want, because nurses, teachers, junior doctors, family doctors, train, guards, signallers and ticket office staff, civil servants, armed forces and police and prison officers, and, of course, the train drivers themselves have all been offered, and some of them have taken it, but I can't get my head around that a £69,000 a year job, working 4 days a week, 35 hours of those 4 days, and yet that's still not good enough. They're still going to strike because ASLEF have said, nope, I'm sorry, we need more, we need better conditions, or we need better timetabling. And, of course, we've just heard that Border Force are going out on strike as well because of their inability to get their scheduling right in terms of their working protocols. I think this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, to be fair, we have to be clear, though, that this is a separate strike to the one that they appear to be settling on. So they've settled on this one issue, and then it's just another strike.
But don't you find it extraordinary, Kevin, that when they came to an agreement, this wasn't actually mooted? You know, it has to be one of the conditions that you don't immediately go on strike over something else.
Yeah, well, I think this is specifically with LNER, isn't it? So the other one is they pay for all train drivers, regardless of what company they work for, whereas this is a specific... And this isn't about pay, this is about conditions, timetable, scheduling and stuff like that. I think it's the timing of it. It couldn't be worse for the government, because the day before, the Transport Secretary was defending the pay award by saying, we said we would end the strikes and we have done it within a month of coming to power. And then the following day... 3 more months of strikes.
Right. Is it coincidental, or is it a case that unions are going, well, we can get what we want now?
Yeah, I think so.
With the LNER, as I understand it, that dispute has been going on for quite some time, and it's a separate thing. I don't think it's linked to them saying, well, we'll chance our arm now because we've already managed to bag a 15% pay rise.
But it is linked for the consumer.
Of course it is.
But as
the
far
optic
as...
and who pays for it, the consumer and the taxpayer.
Well, exactly, that's what I mean. That's why the timing is so bad for the government, as I say, because the Transport Secretary, not 24 hours before, was saying, we said we'd end the strikes and we have, and then 24 hours later, the same union announces another 3 months of strikes.
All taxpayers pay, but they're not all consumers.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing we need to realise as well. And there's the front page of the Daily Express today on the OAPs not getting their winter fuel allowance. What optic is that? Come on.
It doesn't look good, does it?
No, that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, I was up in Scotland last weekend for a few days and speaking to my mum and dad and other family members, and they're furious at the winter fuel.
And it's colder up there.
It's colder up there. You know, I mean, I think we'll probably come to that in a minute in another paper, but yeah, it's not been the easiest first 5 or 6 weeks for the Labour government. There's no doubt about that.
They've not made it easy for themselves,
Kevin.
Kevin.
That as well, yeah.
Let's touch on the Border Force thing, should we? Because that's in the Times, particularly. Have they got a fair point? It's all about work-life balance, isn't it? But heck, we all have to... I mean, with the greatest of respect, getting up at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning isn't great for a work-life balance, but, you know, you want to do the job, so this is what you do.
No, well, absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, the job of a trade union is to try and get the best possible deal for their members, be it pay, be it working conditions, so they're absolutely perfectly entitled to do it. The problem for the government, though, is, as I said earlier, part of the pitch that Labour made to the country before the election was nothing works, the country's on its knees, the Tory government has run out of road, they've made a mess of everything, there's strikes everywhere, we'll come in and we'll sort it. And yet here we are, not 2 months into a Labour government, and if anything, it looks like the strike action might even be getting worse.
See it, sort it, not.
And that is a major issue for them. And
it seems so political. It's almost as though the unions are saying again, all right, you're a Labour government, but it doesn't mean we are still number one.
No, and
we will play you.
And also the fact that Labour are more inclined to maybe not give unions what they want, but certainly more sympathetic to the union demands. So that doesn't mean that the unions will just take that and go away and say thanks very much.
No.
we won't bother you again for the next 5 years. It'll say, right, we'll pocket that, and then next year we'll come back for some more, and that is.
But I don't know where all this money's coming from. I really, really don't.
At a time when, you know, money is thin on the ground.
Yeah, no, I don't know where the money's coming from. Meanwhile, they are spending some money, Claire, according to The Guardian, setting up this teenage violence unit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Home Secretary says this has to be tackled, and this is one way of looking at it.
She's got a point. She really does have a point. So Yvette Cooper, our new Home Secretary, has said that she wants to set up almost like a task force, building in from local authorities, the police forces. But one crucial aspect has been removed from all of this, and that's the parents. She's not asked for parental input for this, and I think it's down to the breakdown of family and parents per se that's enabled county lines. It's enabled the increase in anxiety and mental health issues, because unfortunately young children have not been taken care of in terms of, you know, get off that phone, get off that website. What website is patrolling? They've all got TVs in the room, they've got devices in their rooms, they are unfocused, right? We've just had the A-level results in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Previously to that, 2 weeks ago, we had the Scottish higher education results. The disparity between private and state-educated children, the disparity between those north of the border and south of the border, the disparity between those in Northern England and the south of England is huge. Yvette Cooper mentions mental health issues with young children. CAMHS is practically non-existent. We need to bring back the ability to say, we need discipline, we need to be able to say to a kid, pull up your socks, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah.
Life is hard, and the way we get through that is by not telling everyone on sports days, everyone's a winner, because we're not. Life is so difficult, and at times we really need to embrace that and turn that choice into accepting your life is harsh at the moment.
Well, can this unit actually do anything?
Well, we don't. No, I'm fed up with hearing we're going to get task forces together. Blair brought in the Sure Start for 0 to 5-year-olds. That's gone by the wayside. We need to capture women when they're pregnant at the antenatal classes. We need to be able to take them and give them parenting skills.
Do we need youth clubs back?
We might do. We might do.
Show me a place where there's a living, breathing youth club.
Did your four ever go to a youth club?
I didn't, but I know there was one, and it gave a sense of community to
Well, mine never used anything like that either, because they had enough to do at home.
I went to Cubs and all that sort of
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is a great thing.
They're old-fashioned things, but they might work.
But you say
again.
that, but they're skills.
Yeah, but a lot of them cost money just to set up and run, and the councils don't have the money to.
The interesting thing about this unit is it's cross-party as well.
Yes, exactly.
Which I do find encouraging.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point.
No, I think that's positive. But I do think, I mean, I was thinking back to the Cubs. You start that when you're 8.
Yeah.
I think
and you don't give up. You stick with it.
Oh, you stick with it.
That's
but
the
also,
point.
you know, like if Arcala told you off, if you misbehaved, and it must have been a nightmare for poor Dave Reynolds, who was Arcala. But you know, if you were told off or pulled up or whatever, you did as you were told.
And then your parents would be told as well.
Yeah.
You know, there was no messing about. Yeah, but you still had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, we send our kids to
Brownies?
No, like drama clubs. They bring it into their drama, but that costs money. And we're lucky. We're in a position where we can afford to send them to that, and there's gymnastics clubs and whatever. But again, it all costs money, and not every family has the means and the
But it is about family values. Yes, what you're saying, parenting. We just recently watched the Olympics.
Yep.
These amazing young people who have lived the last 10 years or so, basically since 2012, who have worked themselves solidly through. But they've always had aunts and uncles and grandmas and mums and dads.
Family support.
Buried them around. And absolutely. But look what you can achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, you just look at that generation of young people and you think, we do have a future. But
it's about respect, I think.
Yeah.
And again, that comes from the family. That comes from the family.
Discipline and values and morals and fortitude.
It's like even now, I wouldn't be rude, you know, like aggressive or anything with my mum or dad.
Oh no!
I just wouldn't.
No,
I mean, it's
no.
just like would be so disrespectful.
Yeah, but you look at that youngest rioter. What was he, 9 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. The judge said he's the worst rioter that we've had.
And you think, how was he even
he was
out
9
at that time, you know, without his mum and dad knowing where
Well,
they were,
that's the
unless they were
point.
taking part.
That was my initial point,
it's
Kevin.
parenting.
The crucial subsect here has been completely is just not even mentioned, and that for me is parents. We've got such an important role. Whether you be single, whether you be with a partner, whether you be married, whether you be whatever, it's down to the parenting.
First stop, I would have thought.
Right, Claire, Kevin, thank you. Common
welcome,
sense all
thank you.
round. Here's the weather with Alex.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe 1 or 2 coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but 1 or 2 are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours, but time is ticking. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Rail strikes on the way.
Train drivers announce new strikes, with Border Force staff also set to walk off the job.
And only days after the Prime Minister promised them a whopping great pay rise.
Police on standby across the country as anti-immigration protests and counter-protests are planned for Dover and Birmingham.
Is there a ceasefire in sight? Foreign secretaries from the US, France and UK travel to Israel as world powers try to negotiate for peace.
And awful new details emerge of Matthew Perry's last day as 5 people are arrested over his death.
This weekend marks the anniversary of a TV and footballing institution. Match of the Day takes to our screens tonight. 60 years since it first aired on the BBC. We will look back on some of the programme's greatest and most controversial moments while also discussing what its future might look like.
I have some good news if it's fine and warm weather you're after, with plenty of it this weekend. Stay tuned for the full forecast.
Just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Loads of you getting in touch about all the money business, particularly in relation to the fact that all this money is being handed out whilst taking money off pensioners. Karen, though, says, as a pensioner myself, I don't mind my winter fuel payment going towards doctors, but it's a bit of a blow to lose 200 quid, but I will have to put on another jumper. There you go.
That's what we used to do in the olden days.
Yeah, but I guess...
Wear a woolly vest.
I mean, the thing is, Karen, I guess you're able to cope. It's those people who really can't cope, who are just not on the benefits side of things, who will still get it, but they're just on the borderline.
Yeah. Well, they should still get it. I agree, it's the borderline,
It's
isn't
the
it?
borderline.
It's always where you draw the line, isn't it? But many people will still get it. It's just that, doesn't matter how rich you are, you still got it until recently. So there's no way of defending that, really.
Oh, interesting. Oh, Karen, you've been sending a few messages in, Karen. Been very busy typing this morning. She says, I don't get why you lot are so anti-union. They're standing up for workers' rights. Surely that's a good thing. Well, the issue is no one disputes that, do they? And it's not about us being anti-union, it's just about reporting what's going on. But the issue is, and the concern always has been, that the minute you sort of give in to what the unions want, then they ask for more, and it perpetuates strikes. Now, that's not always the case, of course. It doesn't mean you can never settle. But it is a concern. I mean, you'd say we don't want to end up back in the 80s, do we, where everyone was on 70s, really, where everyone was on strike constantly.
Nick saying Claire Muldoon was talking so much sense. Building resilience in children is essential in order to be able to deal with the knocks we all get dealt in life. Far too often these days, having a down day and feeling a bit miserable is often labelled as mental health problems by the youngsters and an excuse not to do something about it. The other issue relates to lack of respect and discipline. Far too often these days, many parents want to be their child's friend, and that's not what being a parent is about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well,
she says, in my day, if I got into trouble, it keeps jumping around the screen, at school, and my parents found out, they would not have been marching down to the school to demand my punishment was rescinded. No, they would have backed the school all the way and told me I shouldn't have done wrong.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And interesting, I mean, my mother always said, you know, you only have one mother. You can have lots of friends, but you only have one mother. And of course, and as a result of that, I'm really close to my parents. I know you're really close to your boys.
Yeah.
So it works. And oddly enough, Michelle Obama, I saw a clip of Michelle Obama just the other day on YouTube. You know, these things just randomly pop up. And she was being asked about her daughters and friendship and all the rest of it, and she just said, no, we're not friends. We're not friends. No, I'm her mother.
But it's the Instagram age as well. You see so many Instagram mothers with their daughters, and they do these posy pictures where they say, can you tell who's the mother and who's the daughter? And you think, no, that's not what being a mother's about either.
You can do all that when you're older.
I've known loads of people down the years, though, say to me that their mum or their dad is their best friend. Does that make sense?
No.
No?
No, when you're an adult, I mean, my parents are my friends now.
You treat them differently than a friend. There are things you'll tell a friend that you don't tell your mum or dad, aren't there?
Oh, no, it's not the other way around, because I tell mine everything, very much.
You tell your mum and dad everything?
Oh, yeah.
Everything?
Well, I'm not quite, not absolutely everything, but...
there are some things you'd tell a friend you wouldn't tell your parents.
I don't know, I'm very, very open with mine. Actually, I'd trust mine with... I would trust them with anything.
Ah, that's different. Of course you should trust your parents. Of all people, you should trust your parents. Maybe where you don't trust a friend. It's very interesting that, though, isn't it, the difference between a best friend and a mum or dad?
It is a different relationship.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a kid, or you know, even a teenager. This is where you've got to have the discipline. It's got to be about discipline.
It's right about what you tell them, though. My mum said to me once, years ago, she said, you only tell me what you want to tell me.
Yes.
And I thought, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure my boys... I know my boys only tell me what I think mum ought to know.
Really?
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm sure I don't know everything.
Oh.
Actually, there are some things I just don't want to know, thank you very much, either.
I've always had really frank discussions with mine. Yeah.
I couldn't bear that.
Oh, no, it's nice. It's nice. Anyway.
Interesting, though, isn't it?
Maybe I overshare.
Yes. Maybe when you go, they go, oh, my goodness, did we need to know that?
No, I get it back, though.
Do you?
Yeah, well, it's a two-way street.
Oh, it is. Well, that's the point, too.
Anyway, look, enough of all that.
Oh, this is a good one. June says, get parents off their mobile phones and talk to their children. Go in any coffee shop or out in the street and the mother or father are there, but they're on their mobiles and their children are being ignored. And I've seen that. So I've seen that in Disney World. You see, the family have obviously paid a fortune to be there. They're walking along with one of those special Disney sort of carriages that the children are in, and they're on their mobiles. They're just walking along. You think, wow, this is not communication, is it?
No.
That'll be me in a few weeks when I take my nieces and nephews to the theatre.
Oh, right. Well, honestly, I talk to when I'm walking the dog, I'm talking to him all the way around. So if I'm doing that with a blooming dog, you've got to be able to do it with your pet, with your kids.
What, on your mobile, not looking after the kids?
Well, yeah,
the dog is different.
No, but you should be talking to them, shouldn't you?
To them you should, yes, not on your mobile.
No, but no, not on your mobile. But I say I talk to the dog. I'm not on the mobile when I talk to them out with the dog.
I don't know. I know lots of people who are walking the dog and they're always on their mobile. Is there a chance to give somebody a ring, isn't it, when they're out?
I don't know how you get... Oh, I like to chat to him and...
Do you?
Yeah.
Softy.
Under this
in a nice way.
Under this hard exterior.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Shall we get on with the news?
We better add. The Prime Minister is under pressure over pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors. James Cleverly for the Conservatives claiming the government has been played by its union paymasters.
Train drivers on LNER are now going to stage a series of strikes claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and the breaking of agreements. Hundreds of members of ASLEF are going to walk out every Saturday and some Sundays between the end of this month for a total of 22 days.
Earlier, we spoke to travel correspondent at The Independent, Simon Calder.
Right, well, we got the strikes out of the way. We're in the third summer of strikes by train drivers. Now we've got these 1 million problems about the railways we've got to sort out. And then suddenly we're going on strike again. I literally couldn't believe it. This is a completely separate dispute to the pay dispute, which was settled very, very quickly by effectively throwing money at the problem, giving the drivers what they wanted, which was what amounts to a 15% pay rise over 3 years without any strings attached. So they managed to get that all settled. The train drivers are voting on it, but everybody assumes that it will be given an overwhelming majority. This is a separate dispute, as Anne says, about working arrangements, about relationships on the East Coast Main Line. This is LNER. It runs from London to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. And it's not actually just Saturdays. From the 31st of August, and that's a date we'll come back to, I think, in a minute, it will be every Saturday and Sunday until the 10th of November. 22 days, as you say, and this isn't just any old line. This is the UK's flagship railway line at a time when so many people, whether they're families, whether they're holiday makers, whether they're students, absolutely depend on that line. And it was quite interesting to see how Louise Haigh, the Transport Secretary, reacted, which is, oh, well, this sounds terrible. They really must talk to each other. LNER sort it out. She doesn't have to go very far to find the people who are running LNER, because it's her office, the Department for Transport, actually controls LNER. So it's not this great narrative that's been playing out all the way through the election campaign. Privatised companies, they're terrible. This is one which is already in public ownership. There is this sense, which the rail unions have always had, which is that the railways are too important to fail. If you just keep striking long enough, you will get what you want. And, well, that seems to have played out. But ultimately, I have done the working on this, £240 per second being paid by the government, by taxpayers, to keep a pretty ramshackle railway going. I think taxpayers, people who'd be watching this, never go near a train, some of them. They're thinking, how much are we paying and what are we getting? It's a tough, tough time.
And good luck getting away if that's what you're still planning to do. The problem is coming back. These strikes are going to happen at a time when most families are just coming back in time to get back to school.
Yeah, I love the idea that it won't affect you if you use the passport gates. Have you ever tried using those? Yeah. I'd love to. I always get rejected.
Yeah.
Every time it rejects me.
Yeah, my sister's always gets rejected. And you can never find out why. But also, if you've got children under a certain age,
you can't use
them anyway. So it's going to be long queues. Good luck.
Why do I always get rejected? Mind you never know. You're meant to take your glasses off or not?
Yes, you are.
Oh well, I do. Yeah.
Maybe because you've taken your glasses off, you've put the passport in the wrong way up.
Maybe I'm not looking at the camera because I can't see where it is.
That's true. That's true. It's very difficult.
Facing the wrong way.
Yeah, well, it's going to be even more difficult.
Oh, dear me. Right, let's turn our attention to another part of the world, because amid rising tensions in the Middle East, there is renewed hope that a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas may be on the horizon.
The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, was in Israel yesterday alongside his French counterpart, while US Secretary of State arrives today. And President Biden was speaking to the media only a few hours ago. He said he was optimistic.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we got a shot.
Let's talk to Defence Editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox, who's here. Morning to you, Robert.
Morning.
Is there optimism?
There does seem to be very weary optimism around, if I can put it like that. I think there's a very interesting phenomenon here. I think, in a rather messy way, these talks are condemned to succeed, probably over quite a long time, because all sides seem to have reached what they say in military terms. It's a very good one. Culminating point. It's really where you can't do much more with the resources that you've got. Hezbollah, the agent of Iran, really doesn't want a war on the north of Israel because it's going to cost them, and they know that, and cost them their position in Lebanon, such that it is, but it is running part of the government there, or most of it. And Iran is huffing and puffing and really doesn't know what to do next, because it can't repeat what it did April the 13th. Big attack, only one got through. America, big missile, submarine and a new carrier group. The submarine is ominous. It can carry up to 140 Tomahawk missiles. So that is the message to Iran. If you're thinking of bombing Israel, however you do it, you're going to get whacked back. And nobody wants it.
No, nobody wants it, except you just can't figure out what sort of deal could be brokered that would at least calm things down to the point of ceasefire.
You're absolutely right, because every time you get to a talk, it's sort of like one of those third-party fire and theft insurance things. You find something in the little
there's a
print.
deal breaker.
And the past master at that, or the present master, is Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, his policy, we knew it from his very fiery speech to Congress. It's fight, 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 we're going to destroy Hamas. One thing that has become absolutely clear from Biden and Harris, who's now very important, and Volz, who's important, is they're saying to Netanyahu, we're giving you arms if Israel is under threat, but you're not going to win this one militarily against Hamas, because now you've got the real hard man. You've taken everybody else out in the leadership that counts. You've got Sinwar. He's 80 metres underground in a bunker, and he's going to stay there for a long time. You are never totally going to defeat Hamas in the present terms, in the foreseeable future. And that's what we're talking about.
But that's what he's always said is his endgame.
Yeah, but why?
He will absolutely destroy Hamas. That's all he wants.
Look what's going on behind you. Actually, good journalistic trick. And what's going on behind them? They're very worried about the tooling up of the Houthis. They have got better and better equipment. They had a bit of a go, not very successful at attacking into Israel over Tel Aviv, but they're using bigger and better stuff on the ships. And this is where Britain comes into very important maritime power, very important civil maritime authority, very firmly allied with France. I mean, they don't. Lamy just isn't mucking about there. I mean, this is not window dressing that he's been doing with Sejourne, his French counterpart. The Americans have said, we want you in there. Europe has said that. France, lead for us, because it's a huge slice of the global economy that is under threat here.
Right, whilst we've got you, let's move you from one conflict to another, should we? What should we make of what is happening between Russia and Ukraine at the moment? This strategic bridge has been destroyed in the Kursk region by Ukraine. They are in Russia, using some British tanks, we understand, to do that. Where does this leave this? Someone was saying the other day, well, maybe this is the beginning of the end, but that, again, sounds a little bit too optimistic at this stage.
Sorry to go back to the fancy jargon. The thing that the analysts are not getting, and I don't know, and the Ukrainians have been brilliant in concealing this, when do they get to their culmination point? When do they say... A culminating point is when you run out physically. A culmination point is where you've got to the stop point in your plan. I'll tell you, the key man is Alexander Syrskyi in this, the general who's in charge, and he's very good at breakouts. He did one in Kharkiv 2 years ago, and he's doing it again, and he's got a Mr. Thinker, the guy who messes with the Russians' head, General Budanov, and we don't really know what the game is going to end in. I think you're right. I think they're going to a negotiating point. They've started talking about it. Be reasonable. The Zelensky leadership with Syrskyi have said to the Russians, they drop this bridge. I'll bet if they go on, they're going to drop another one, which cuts off Crimea altogether. They'll go for the Kerch Bridge altogether, very, very likely. What has happened, what has been so unexpected, and the naysayers in the West didn't get it, the people, I know Russia, blah, 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 is that they have suddenly turned... It's like Harris entering the political campaign. They've suddenly turned the momentum. The energy has changed behind this. And this is the thing that a totalitarian organisation, very highly structured like Russia, finds very difficult to take on board. I think the fighting's got about 2 or 3 weeks more to go, simply based on ammunition stocks. Then I think there will have to be a serious talking, and then the silent man again behind your back, and China will say to Russia, you got to talk. And remember, the Foreign Secretary is going to China next month.
Why would China say that to Russia? You've got to talk.
because you're a pain in the arsenal,
see. Okay.
frankly.
Yeah.
That's what... I mean, say, absolutely. You're costing us too much. We have got things to focus on. You're beginning to alienate our great potential allies in our new Silk Road, Belt and Road. They have a vision. And if Russia messes with that vision, China will say no.
Interesting. That's why it's always good to have you on, Robert. Thank you very much indeed.
Gosh. Interesting times. But lives are still being lost, aren't they? I mean, you have to remind yourself all the time. Yes, never mind. OK, let's cheer ourselves up and hope that today is going to be as good as yesterday, weather-wise.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning it a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe one or two coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but one or two are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, time is ticking. There's only a couple of weeks left to get your entry in if you want to get your hands on £30,000 in our Great British Giveaway. This is how you do it.
We could be calling you with the news that you've won our latest Great British Giveaway, an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi, I'm John from sunny North Yorkshire, and I've just won £20,000 in the GB News Great British Giveaway. It didn't cost much to enter, but of course if you're not in, you can't win. And here I am, having won £20,000, and that's tax-free, so I'm rather pleased I did it.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you. I was just saying to you, it just occurred to me then, thinking about money. I didn't win the Euro Millions last night because they would have rung up.
Yeah.
I imagine.
And then you would have rung me and said, not coming in tomorrow.
64 million, I think it was.
And then I would have sat down and written a begging letter.
Oh, would you?
Oh, I'd be the first, yeah.
Oh, that's all right then.
Do stick with us. Still to come, new details are emerging over the death of Matthew Perry. That's next.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday. It's a very difficult issue, this, right? As far as we know, the boxer with male chromosomes was born with female genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite simple. You know, sex in humans is binary and immutable because we are mammals. And there is a minority of people who have disorders of sexual development, and that can affect a person's reproductive organs. But these people are male or female. And yesterday, what we witnessed was basically just glorified male violence against women and girls. The difference is, I mean, that happens every day all over the world. And the difference is that in every other circumstance, we consider beating up women to be wrong, but it was deemed acceptable by those at the IOC because they're claiming that it's sport. But it's not. It's violence and it's wrong.
Peter, Lottie's right, isn't she, that we've been talking a lot recently about violence against women and girls, and regardless of whether this person is intersex or transgender, they have male chromosomes. That means they have a very, very distinct biological advantage that could actually be fatal to a female athlete competing against them.
Well, of course, sport does need to be fair, and we do need to examine this case very thoroughly. There are reports that the boxer, Iman Khalif, was born a biological woman. She is not transgender. She is not non-binary. She is not intersex. She may have elevated levels of testosterone, but that's entirely natural. It's beyond her control. It's the way she was born. And that is why the International Olympic Committee has said that she falls within the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat zone.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 7:26. Now, there are more details emerging over the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. 5 people, as we know, have been arrested, including his assistant, over his death last year.
And according to newly released documents, Perry's last words to his assistant, Kenneth Iwasama, were, "Shoot me up a big one," before ingesting a fatal dose of ketamine.
So depressing. Let's talk to showbiz journalist Julianne Traynor. Morning, Julianne. The whole thing about this is shocking, especially because we're talking about trusted assistants, we're talking about medical professionals, that this was able to happen at all.
Yeah, it's just dreadful because these people were meant to be in a duty of care, and instead of doing what they should have been, they were just exploiting him for money. And not only that, but also his live-in assistant of 30 years as well is also being held responsible for shooting him up with it, with the ketamine. So it's just shocking. It really is.
Apparently on the day he died, according to the reports in the papers today, he'd had at least 2 shots of ketamine. Just to explain to everybody, ketamine is an anaesthetic, basically, isn't it?
Yes, and it's illegal as well. And if it is to be used, it's meant to be under guidance of a medical expert. But it was his assistant that was shooting him up. So it's just appalling, really. And apparently he was shooting him up to 6 to 8 times a day. And it's just so tragic because... He apparently was like getting up in the morning, having it with his breakfast, again at lunchtime, in the evening. So it's just so sad.
There are a couple of doctors that have been charged in relation to this, and they were, it was sort of prescribed, if you like, initially. The idea that a medical doctor would prescribe ketamine to someone who has a huge addiction problem, beggars belief.
Terrible, yeah. He fought a really hard, long and very public battle of drug and alcohol addiction. And, I mean, at one point he was earning $1 million per episode with friends, so he very much had a lot of money, and yet these people were just exploiting him.
And we know that because there have been texts between the doctors that are now in evidence, where there are two doctors talk to each other about, basically they're saying, how much money do you think we can get out of this moron?
Exactly.
Said.
It's just
doctors.
It's just so callous. I mean, who would even write that? It's absolutely horrible. But the police seem to really want to go to town on this and make an example to prevent further things from happening. And Whitney Houston, she died under similar circumstances as well, and her daughter, Bobby Brown, a year later. So I'm glad now that people are really starting to sit up and take notice.
What do we know of this woman who's been dubbed the ketamine queen? Because apparently some sort of high-flying dealer who deals with celebrities, but she's getting some people coming out in support of her as well.
Well, I'm not sure who would support this woman, because she's also been linked to having done something similar with another man about a few years ago, and she's been living like this luxury lifestyle on the proceeds of supplying ketamine underhandedly.
I mean, she's basically a drug dealer.
Exactly.
But she has this sort of social media presence as though it's something to be proud of, and she was posting sort of glitzy pictures of herself, basically talking about how she had magic mushrooms available or something online, quite openly.
Exactly. It's like she's a glorified drug dealer, and she posts all these lavish photos of her holidays and her nights out and drinking champagne, and all the while other people are suffering at the hands of her. It's like she's the middle person, and the doctors are prescribing under these like false prescriptions, I guess.
She is one of the arrested now, isn't she?
She is, and she faces a very long jail time.
Do we know when this is going to actually get to court?
Probably within the next few months, but it seems like they've done a lot of homework, the police, and like I said, they really want to make an example out of this. And I feel so sorry for Matthew, because it was only about a year ago he said in an interview that all he wanted in life was to find lasting love and have children, and all that has been robbed from him. And it's just really sad, because
I mean, there will be people at home saying he brought it upon himself as well. I mean, but he was an addict. He knew he was an addict, and clearly the professionals around him, who he was paying very well, were not looking after his best interests.
He was extremely vulnerable, he really was. And like I said, that assistant lived with him. He was with him for 30 years. He should have really, I mean, sought help or put his foot down or entered him back into rehab. And like I said, with all that money, it must be so tempting to try and stay sober, especially in the world of Hollywood, where there's so much temptation.
Yeah, well, with that much money, you can sort of do what you want, really.
Yeah.
You do need a firm hand.
You can only now sort of start to understand the frustration that his real friends, people like Jennifer Aniston and his, the friends, must have felt, because we know that they tried so many times to help him.
And it also rules out the possibility of a friends reunion or a film in the future, because now that he's no longer here, there's no way they would do that without him. They really stood by him to the end.
All right, Julianne Traynor, thank you very much indeed.
No
Good to see you
problem,
this
guys. Thank you.
You still to come. Aidan McGee will be here with all of the latest sports news. That's next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and is inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.
Joining us now to discuss what it takes to embark on a second career as cabin crew is Helen Williams. Good morning, Helen.
Hi, good morning, Helen.
Welcome. Just touching down in our studio.
It is. I've had a few days off and now I'm here.
So you are now cabin crew.
I am.
What inspired you to get into it? What did you do before? How did it all come around?
Oh, so when I graduated, I took an office job with my grad scheme, and that job lasted 6 months, and I started working for a European carrier. I did just over 5 years at that European carrier and had an absolutely fabulous time. I then went on to a wet lease operation with an Irish carrier and another mainline UK carrier. I then decided to have time out. I had a business, I had a family, I had children, and last autumn I decided, why not? Let's go back and do it all again. So returning to that European carrier that I'd worked at when I was in my early 20s.
And what is that like for you now, returning that bit older, having that life experience, having your children? Do you think that's been a benefit to you?
It's absolutely been a benefit. I mean, the amount of parents that thank me for helping me with their small children when they're crying on a flight. I am that person now.
When you went back for a second time,
Yeah.
did you notice more sort of older people amongst your sort of colleagues?
I did. So when I returned onto my initial course in March of this year, just over half the course were over the age of 30.
Wow.
Which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was expecting to return and be with a lot of younger, 18, 19, 24. I was expecting to be that dinosaur. And that first day of training, to find out that I wasn't the dinosaur, you have no idea how exciting that was. And they've gone on, that particular group, to be phenomenal crew members.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Time for the sport with Aidan. Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
We've been humming theme tunes, haven't we?
We have. Well,
during the
why
break?
not? It's,
Because you're going to talk about Match of the Day.
Yeah, I want to shine a light on it because quite a few of the papers and online presences have gone quite big on the fact that it's 60 years of the match of the day this evening. Now, it's not been without its
Actually,
controversies.
today.
Today, yeah, this
Oh, my
evening, yeah.
goodness.
This evening they're going on air. It's 25 years of Gary Lineker as well, because he famously took over from Des Lynam. But 60 years of the show. You mentioned the theme tune just then. As I said, not without its controversies throughout the years, but think of the names it's spawned as well, just from a commentary point of view, the actual match commentary. John Motson, Barry Davies. You think of the presenters, not just Lineker, but also Des Lynam.
Des Lynam, very big.
Before that, Jimmy Hill was on it. Jimmy Hill actually came up with the idea.
Jimmy Hill.
Jimmy Hill came up with the idea of the panel that we know today. So the idea of not just a presenter. If you look at the early Match of the Days, it was a presenter staring down the barrel,
Yes.
just talking into the matches, talking into the coverage. Jimmy Hill came up in the early 70s, not for the Match of the Day, but for the coverage of the World Cup in 1970, of a presenter with two guests, a bit like what we're doing here now. And
That's a very bad idea.
referring...
Very expensive.
I know. Just getting insight from two experts, if you
Yes.
like. So that's how it's...
It works extremely well, actually, doesn't it?
It does, but if you look at it from that point until today, it hasn't really changed that much. And maybe the simplicity is what's given it the success that it has, because the numbers...
Well, it's the quality of the guests as well.
Quality of the guests.
If you've got two footballers on, for instance, there who are experienced footballers,
Yes.
and
So
they really
Alan
know
Hansen-
their stuff.
Alan
They're
Hansen
interesting.
was on it for years, Mark Lawrenson as well. We've just seen Ian Wright leave. But Alan Shearer, who said that it'll evoke memories of his late father when he appears tonight, because he watched it in his early years with him. So lots of nostalgia around.
Well, we must all have memories of that music coming on the telly. And I suppose if you were a sports fan, you immediately went to the telly, didn't you? And if you weren't, you sort of, oh, boy, I'll go and do washing up.
That's when you got out.
Oh, yes, that's right. But we all knew the theme tune.
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers are holding up well as well. If you compare to 20 years ago, I mean, there aren't many staple TV shows that, while their figures may be quite robust, there aren't that many that have actually increased year on year since 2004. Match Today was averaging 3.1 million a show then. It's now on 3.8. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good nowadays, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And also there's Match of the Day 2, which goes on. and that 150 million clips were watched last season just on social media, and that's not even including the numbers on iPlayer. So it really is quite extraordinary how it holds its own. And I think that in terms of the future, I think it might. I don't see any sign of its popularity abating, because I think some people prefer to watch highlights anyway. And in the modern era, you don't necessarily need to watch 95 minutes of Fulham 0, West Ham 0 to get the story of Fulham 0, West Ham 0. Sometimes it's better if it's just condensed into.
Well, that's why,
into 5
but
minutes.
it's also good to hear it discussed if there's something happens. Or...
Are you pitching for a new job, Aidan? Is that what he's doing? It's like a love-in.
I'm happy here.
I haven't watched Gary Lineker do his thing on Match of the Day until the Euros.
Yes.
And then I caught it, and I tell you what, he is good.
He was properly trained.
Very good at what he does.
I thought it was better than the ITV coverage.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting, because it's...
But quite like, because I thought Alan Shearer was very good.
This isn't 60 consecutive years. There was a period at the end of the 80s, between 88 and 92, and at the start of the 2000s, where they lost the rights to show the highlights to ITV. And so, for example, we were talking about it off-air then, it took a little while. The ITV product, their version, which was called the Premiership, actually found its feet eventually and then lost its rights, unfortunately. It was a different kind of format, but it did actually work. But I think when it did go back to the Match of the Day, they just reverted to what they did always. People have missed it, and with a new presenter, a slightly different tweak to the format, it did very, very well. But it's the music that stayed the same. They don't.
That's it, isn't it?
That's it. That's the one. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It cost us £75 doing that.
I deliberately did it in 2 5-second verbs.
Oh, no, we're all right.
Is that right?
OK, we're all right then. Right, let's have a quick look at what...
Can I just...
Oh, go on. Sorry.
What have you done to yourself?
Sorry, I've just got a leaky pen.
A leaky pen?
So just leaky
Ink
pen.
all over the place.
I know, sorry, on the new set.
I thought I was distracting you with my Match of the Day chat.
No, I've just got ink everywhere, but I'm just quietly cleaning it.
Or something?
Something like that. So I'm just quietly cleaning while you waffle on. No. But let's have a look at what matches you've got today while I finish off the cleaning.
We've got you carry on with the spring cleaning. I'll bring in some pledge for Mr. Muscle for you in a little while. But yeah, Ipswich are playing today. We're going to hear from one of their former players in the next hour. Big day for that town today. They should have seen Premier League football sometime in the last 22 years, Anne. It's not a small city. It's not a small town.
Who's just bought a share in Ipswich?
No, well, Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran's been going to the games regularly.
Yeah, but he's just bought a share, hasn't he?
I'll have to check on that.
Ooh, I think he has, yeah.
Small share, yeah, but it's not...
Small share,
yeah, but
300
he's terribly
million.
thrilled, yeah.
I know, but we've seen that many times before. It doesn't amount to a controlling...
No, it's not a controlling share.
Does it? And I mean, you know, even somebody as wealthy as him guiding a Premier League football club these days is a billionaire's game. That's what I'd say. But having said that...
He is, isn't he?
A billionaire? No.
A 1.4% ownership stake.
Yeah.
But he will be a passive investor and not part of the club's board of directors.
I interviewed, about 10 years ago, in fact, it was 10 years ago, Louis Tomlinson. He just bought a minor share in Doncaster Rovers at the behest of John Ryan, who was the plastic surgeon who did an operation for Kylie Minogue. I won't say what it is, but he did an operation for us.
Right, anyway, let's stop there before we get sued.
Yes, I was going to say.
Aidan, get off.
No, it's true. It's all true. But no, it didn't amount to anything. What I'm saying is 10 years ago, it didn't amount to anything.
It'll get him a seat in the director's box, though, won't it?
No, I think he had that already, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he did, yeah.
It was great food in the press box back.
Great food. I'm sure he's done it for the food, yeah.
Food. Right, Aidan, thank you.
All right, cheers. Get cleaned up?
Yes,
I think he's cleaned up now.
Right, Clem Muldoon and Kevin Schofield are going to take us through the papers in a minute.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
A court on Wednesday ruled that a teenager was wrongly ignored before being forced into end-of-life care. Sudiksha Thirunathan, who was 19, died last year after being prevented from travelling abroad for treatment after doctors said her condition was incurable. Doctors said Ms. Thirunathan's objection to their decision was unreasonable and that she should have all life-sustaining treatment ended and be put on a palliative care pathway. Last August, a ruling said that the teenager lacked mental capacity to make her own decisions, but 3 judges in the Court of Appeal overturned that decision last week. Lawyers said the move reaffirms the right of patients to disagree with their doctors. The teenager remained fully conscious while being treated by the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. Well, to discuss this tragic case, Sudiksha's father, Thirunathan, and brother, Varshan, join me now. Thank you so much for joining me in these desperately sad circumstances. This is very important for other people who may find themselves in a similar position, that they will be able to make decisions about their own care with the support of their families, rather than the sometimes arrogance of the medical profession who think that they know best. So you must be, I hope, very reassured by this judgment that Sudiksha has achieved something for other people.
Yes, definitely, because this arrogance transformed into cruelty towards my sister's care and ill treatment of the whole family. They think they are on the top of the hierarchical spectrum, and they treated us like we were on the bottom of the lower end of the chains, or rather as low class, but we ensured that our class remained.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christys. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat zone.
As time passes,
she could have said stump. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christys tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, shall we have a look at the papers? Claire Muldoon and Kevin Schofield are here. Good morning, you two.
Morning.
Let's have a look at the Express, Kevin, should we? Because we're talking heat or eat again. Way ahead of the winter, but because of the winter fuel allowance.
Yeah, the Express have always been running a bit of a campaign on this winter fuel payments.
They have, and the pensioners are, I think, their core readership.
Yeah.
And they're always on the side of the pensioners. Before the election, they were running a big campaign on saving the triple lock. Which was successful, obviously, because both the Tories and Labour said that they would keep it for the length of this Parliament. However, Labour may well be sticking to that pledge, but as we all know, they very quickly got rid of winter fuel payments for anyone who's not on pension tax credits. And that is, to put it mildly, incredibly unpopular, because it means that the vast majority of pensioners won't be getting their payment from now on. And, you know, you're talking about, I know from my own family members, that you're talking about people who will be losing out who are by no means wealthy. Now, there's no doubt there'll be a small number of pensioners who are very rich, who don't need the money, probably spend it on a case of wine or whatever every year. But there'll be a lot of people who do rely on it, especially given that energy prices are so high, and they will be borderline as to whether they qualify for tax credit or not. But because they fall on the wrong side of the line, they will lose this money. And come the winter, a lot of people are going to have to make some very hard choices. And there's some pretty moving quotes in this story from the Express. One person here says, I do hope we don't have a bad winter, or there will be a lot of people getting very ill, or worse, may die because of what Labour have done. And I think that kind of sums it up.
I do think I'm not against it being more limited than it currently is, but I think the threshold should have been a lot higher.
Well, that is the problem, isn't it? Because the pension, if you to qualify for pensioner tax credit, you have to be on a very low income. And even people who don't qualify are still on, a lot of them are still on very low incomes, and they will lose out, and that money can be literally a lifeline.
A lot of people over the age of 65 and 70, especially women, didn't pay what was termed the big stamp, which was opting in and out of SERPs. So there's a there'll be a vast majority of women who are over the age or to become an OAP who will be discredited against this. My mum is one of them, and I've got my mum's cousin's another. And if these are the women who do things like lots of voluntary work, either in prisons or for the WI or something, they will have to stop doing that, because that then impinges and works on and has a direct effect on how much money they can get.
Why would this Labour government apparently, and this is not my words actually, it's lots of people saying, not care about pensioners?
I don't think it's a case of not caring about pensions. I think,
it is.
It's an easy target. You know, it's an easy target in terms of how to save money. Probably what's happened is Rachel Reeves has gone to the Treasury officials, and the Treasury officials will have a whole list of things that could potentially save money. And that'll have been one of the things that they'll have suggested. And it's a choice. Rachel Reeves has made that choice. And it's politically could be very damaging indeed, because
during the election they kept talking about working people.
Working people. But also they know that the pensioner vote is very important, because pensioners by and large do vote. And they'll have long memories.
And some pensioners do work.
And come the next election, unless Labour somehow find money to either reinstate it in 4 or 5 years' time, or find money in other ways to ameliorate it in some way, then people will remember that come the next election and won't vote for them. It's as simple
I think it's just horrendous.
Let's change that, because it's thoroughly depressing, so maybe we all need to look forward to a nice holiday.
Where would you think? Where would you think of going?
Nice. I've not been before.
We've just missed Simon Calder as well, Stephen. Do you think he might want to go to North Korea?
I think he'd give it a shot.
As they reopen the border for international tourists.
You've got to be mad to want to go.
It's lovely at this time of year.
Is it?
No, I'm just joking.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
How would you even get through passport control there? I mean, you've got Kim Jong-un. I can't believe this. Tour companies have said the border into the northeastern city of Samayon and possibly the rest of the country will open for the first time in more than 4 years.
I think it'd be fascinating, though.
International tourists are shut out of the country.
Some people will go,
You're not going to, lie on the beach or expect 5-star hotels or whatever, but just to see what this country, which is effectively cut off from the rest of the world.
But it's almost like going to see animals in a zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
To see these people who have no freedoms, no nothing.
Yeah, and obviously, even though you're allowed in, it will be very tightly
difficult to get out.
Perhaps that as well. But, you will be monitored very closely.
Oh, yeah.
You'll only be allowed to go certain places, probably with guides or whatever. But I think, if you're a slightly adventurous person, and you're not going for a family holiday with the kids.
Exactly. There will be people who will want to go.
It'll be amazing.
They have continued and enabled Russian tourists to still visit. But, trying to get visas or electronic visas in any country that you want to go to now, I mean, my goodness me, I think that's a money-making machine. Every country now wants an ETA or an ESTA or something, and you just wonder, will you have to give in your phone because you won't be able to use WhatsApp? You can't even use WhatsApp in China.
You might want to, because they'll just be monitoring what you're doing.
Will there be any form of internet? Well, I mean,
but you won't get travel insurance
there'll be control.
To North Korea?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Very expensive.
And where would you fly into? South Korea and then go up? You just don't know.
I don't know.
Going in a rocket, because I think that's what they want.
Well, you don't. But you see, and we get to see what they want you to see, which is, I mean, they've got some fabulous new hospitals and all that, which are beautifully kitted out and all that sort of thing. There's nobody in them.
No, because that's the best way to run a hospital is not to have any patients.
Yeah. So it's all stuff like that. It's all a facade.
It's almost as if the Labour government are there already, making sure no one has to use the facilities that are there.
What's this about, Kevin, about going back to old cameras?
Yeah, that's just an amazing story. I mean, I just thought that the camera had gone the way of the old style camera, gone the way of the dodo, really. And everyone's got a camera on their phone now, and you instantly see what you've taken. You can delete it and move on. But yeah, apparently, a bit like vinyl records have made a bit of a comeback. That younger people, Generation Z, as they're called, are quite getting into retro, old-style film cameras. Tesco, which still has 480 photo printing locations, according to The Guardian, has said the demand for its film processing services is up nearly 10% this year.
What, to 20 people?
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative. But yeah, the value of the film camera market is on course to reach 303 million by 2030, which is up from 223 million last year. So there is still a market.
They'll soon get bored of it.
No,
they will. Because do you remember the olden days when you'd go away on holiday and you're like, oh God, we've only got 24 pictures that we can take of the entire holiday.
Or when you'd have to take them to Boots and wait.
Already, but that's the very same point I was just about to make. The anticipation, the want, the wonderful. Who have I captured? Then you end up with thighs. You end up with thumbs. You don't really, or you end up with dodgy cocktails. Parasols and Marichina cherries and a bit of the beach. That was it.
Or when you came back,
it was great.
Or when you came back and there was maybe 3 or 4 pictures still left on film, and you have to use it up. So you take just random pictures of the back garden and stuff. I mean,
It was
those were the
brilliant.
days.
Those were the days. That's what you'd need to take to South Korea. North Korea, even.
That's all you'd be allowed to. Wouldn't be able to take your mobile phone. Because we all take far too many digital pictures now.
Oh, we do.
Because it's so easy, isn't it?
Far too many.
You see people at concerts as well. All you can see now are people with phones.
Well, there is that. No one lives it in the moment.
No one, exactly.
You're watching it through a phone.
No, but it's quite nice that you can capture more of life. I'm not one of these people. Everyone takes pictures of their tea.
No, don't do that.
How many pictures of your dog do you have?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Thank you.
I don't take them.
Has the dog usurped the cat? Timmy?
In terms of, I did take a picture of the cat last night, actually.
See?
But I don't. I hardly ever take. I hardly ever take pictures. The other half, on the other hand, is constantly snapping away. But I don't do any of that. I don't do any Instagram or Twitter or any of it.
I've made a resolution to try and clear all of the library of pictures I've got just on my phone, let alone on the laptop.
Hundreds.
So I will always go through and I'll delete 10 a day.
Do you ever
print
off any of the ones you've actually taken?
No.
No.
I've done that a couple of times, which is quite nice.
Very rarely.
Right, on that reminiscent note, nostalgic note, we're out of time. See you both a little bit later on.
Cheers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning it a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe 1 or 2 coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but 1 or 2 are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We could be calling you with the news that you've won our latest Great British giveaway, an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi, I'm John from sunny North Yorkshire, and I've just won £20,000 in the GB News Great British giveaway. It didn't cost much to enter, but of course if you're not in, you can't win. And here I am having won £20,000, and that's tax-free, so I'm rather pleased I did it.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
We haven't talked about Meghan for a very long time.
Well, this is about suicidal ideations, which apparently Meghan Markle says she was having. It's not our place to question whether that is true or not. But she's saying this, Matt, isn't she, so that we can all be aware of online harms and therefore what? We can't have anonymity online anymore?
Yeah, I think it's a bit... I mean, obviously, you know, her personal story is very affecting, and I think it will help people, you know, to hear to hear the issues. Because we hear issues around mental health, but we don't often hear in detail about suicidal ideation, which is that people having thoughts about suicide, not necessarily having a detailed plan to do it. So I think that's important. But then if you're going to say it's all about online harms, what do you mean? What do you want to change? What rules do you want to introduce or you know, or alter? And I think that's the issue, that it doesn't actually go anywhere.
So, because she's given us a talk in America, she's supporting a charity, all very noble. So the suicidal... It was because of what she was reading about herself online. Is that what she said?
Well, I think she thinks it because of the whole structure really of what she went through.
What did she go through?
About herself. Well, you know, she thinks she's been through trial by tabloids. Others would disagree.
Oh, that again.
Emma.
That again.
I don't often agree with Meghan Markle. In fact, I never agree with Meghan Markle. Good. But actually, on this, I'm reaching a point where I think the anonymity online and the abuse and the vitriol and the violence and the threats that you can fling at people online is actually really getting too much. And I think that it is dangerous. And I do think that when you receive really hateful, blasphemous messages from people, and it's always the be kind, the kind of hate mob, the kind of, well, we know who we're talking about. They're almost 99.9% anonymous, and I think we do need to look at that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Rail strikes on the way.
Train drivers announce new strikes, with Border Force staff also set to walk out of their jobs.
And all of this comes just days after the Prime Minister promised them a pay rise.
Police on standby across the country as anti-immigration protests and counter-protests are planned for Dover and Birmingham.
Well, protests set to take place across the country, with thousands set to gather as the Ministry of Justice confirms that almost 100 people have already been sentenced for involvement in violent disorder. I'll have the latest from Birmingham.
Is there a ceasefire in sight? Foreign secretaries from the United States, France and the UK head to Israel as world powers try to negotiate for peace.
Thank you.
Harry and Meghan continue their DIY tour of Colombia as they visit local schools and sports clubs.
The Premier League rolls into town today. A new town, in fact, as Ipswich sees top-flight football for the first time in 22 years. We'll hear from one of their former captains ahead of their 12:30 showdown with Liverpool at Portman Road.
I have some good news if it's fine and warm weather you're after, with plenty of it this weekend. Stay tuned for the full forecast.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So here we go. I mean, so many of you getting in touch about pensions. Again, and winter fuel allowance on the back of the fact that obviously this big offer's been made to ASLEF for train drivers to stop striking, which looks like they'll agree to. It's not confirmed, but then another strike's been launched on something else. A concerned peaceful patriot says Labour always preach how they protect the less well off, and then they take pensioners' winter fuel help away. I mean, it is
a strange thing to do, isn't it? But doesn't Rachel Reeves justify it by saying that that's the money she's going to use to pay the doctors?
Well,
I think that's what she's actually sort of
maybe.
said.
But,
rob one to pay the other, sort of thing.
Elizabeth says, I'm just over the threshold for pension credit, so I will struggle, what with high food prices and the taking of the winter fuel allowance. What really gets me is all the money we're giving away to other countries. We're bottom of the pile. I mean, I can totally understand how people feel like that. I mean, the foreign aid budget is always a controversial thing, isn't it? Is it right that we... Mind you, we still give money to India and their space programme?
We do. Yes, we do. Well, we don't directly give it to their space programme.
Well, no,
but we give money to India, and yet it is a country that has a space programme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We give money to China as well, do we not?
Yes, I think we do. I think we do.
And I think this Labour government will be very in favour of keeping that, because they believe in the altruism and the outreach throughout the globe that it's necessary. It's good for relations, isn't it? But it's very difficult for some pensioners who are now going to worry. They shouldn't have to worry about paying their fuel.
Yeah.
They should up the threshold, as you said earlier.
Up the threshold, because there are some
because
people
not all people need it.
But up the threshold to something sensible. Mind you, gas prices have come down, or perhaps energy prices have come down. I got an email the other day saying, we're reducing your direct debit by a third. It came down by a third.
Same for me.
Actually, I think I got a notice showing that I've got massive credit because I've just been paying.
Oh, yes.
I've got massive credit. They don't offer to pay it back.
No, but you've got to be careful with that, because I chased that because I had a load of credit in there. And what they do is they then say, oh, yes, well, we'll give you the money back, but we need to calculate how much you owe us for... And it came back and it was reduced by 95%. So they said, no, that's actually what you owe us. So even though it looks like it's credit, you owe it to them.
I've tried it a few times as well.
Yeah.
They get you.
They get you in the end. They do.
So, yeah, you just got to forget about that credit that builds up.
Really? Oh, I thought I was...
Like sitting on money?
Yeah.
No, sadly not.
If they can reduce your payments, though, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all a con. They get you in the end.
I had to use more energy this summer just for heating the house. It's been such a bad summer.
See, I've used more energy because I've had the aircon unit on.
Ah, ooh.
Yeah.
I know. It's been a delight in the bedroom.
Fridges as well. Fridges, freezers.
Fridges, freezers, yeah. They all use energy, I'm afraid, don't they?
They do. Right.
Have you got one of those gadgets that shows you the energy that's being used?
A smart
little
meter.
whizzy thing, yeah. And
Oh.
it shows that it does it digitally nowadays, but it shows you how much energy is being used. Then you turn something off and it slows down quite a lot.
I don't think I want to see.
No, exactly. It's very unnerving.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see.
But probably good for you to know.
Yeah, probably is. Right, let's crack on with a bit of news, because police forces are going to be on alert today amid planned protests and gatherings across the country.
They're anti-immigration protests, which are expected in Dover and Birmingham, but the campaign group Stand Up to Racism are also set to take to the streets. And this all comes as new data reveals 460 people now have been arrested in connection with the violent disorder we saw earlier this month, and hundreds face their day in court.
Well, let's head to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson, who's in Birmingham, I think, for us this morning. Jack, what are we expecting there today?
Well, we are certainly expecting a Stand Up to Racism counter-protest. They've happened quite a few times now over the past few weeks here in Birmingham. Last Wednesday, more than a week ago, there was expected to be an anti-immigration protest in the Jewellery Quarter part of this city. That didn't happen, but there was a huge showing of hundreds of people in a Stand Up to Racism counter-protest. They'd marched peacefully through the city. Just last Saturday, there was a very similar demonstration here in the city centre. We are expecting a repeat of that today. There are planned speakers to make announcements and speeches on that platform, as well as, of course, the chanting and the gathering of hundreds expected. This comes, as you were mentioning, as West Midlands Police particularly saying that there will be a very visible police presence in this city today. They say they have a plan to respond to any kind of incident following the online rumours of possible other protests. They talk in their statement that they released yesterday about their plans for this weekend, about trying to ensure public safety and understanding the balance of the right to peacefully protest, but also trying to stop any kind of criminality. They talk in the statement from Superintendent Jack Hadley from the West Midlands Police. He says that he wants to reassure people visiting to this city centre today that they will be fully prepared for any protests taking place. They say they're not anti-protest, they're anti-crime. Now, West Midlands Police had come under some criticism in the past few weeks for how they've responded to particular protests within this city and demonstrations within this city, but they are trying to reassure people that anyone they say that is coming to this city to look like they are willing and wanting to commit crime, that they will be dealt with. They have the plans in place to deal with that today. That comes as this new data that we got yesterday from the Ministry of Justice, talking about how 460 people have already had a first hearing take place in court. 99, so nearly 100 people already sentenced for their involvement within violent disorder that we've seen across the country in the past few weeks. They say 185 have been sent to the Crown Court for sentencing, 153 more for trial, and 69 have already received a custodial sentence. Now, there had been concern when Labour first entered government about the amount of prison places. They say they've managed to free up 500 spaces in order to deal with this disorder. Very much the Prime Minister in this government hoping that the quick sentencing of these people that have been involved in this disorder will very much act as a deterrent towards anybody thinking about protesting in a violent manner and bringing disorder to towns and cities across the country. Just last week we were talking about the Crown Prosecution Service saying that there could well be people charged with rioting. Now, that is a much more serious offence than violent disorder. It carries a sentence of up towards 10 years, and the first person in the country just yesterday was charged with rioting. It's a 15-year-old boy in Sunderland who can't be named for legal reasons, but they've been the first person since all this disorder began to have been charged with the offence of rioting. Interestingly, they'd already pleaded guilty to violent disorder, but their charge has been upgraded, and it's a situation which they have to go through with the lawyer, and it's a complicated situation when that happens, but that charge has been upgraded to rioting, the first person in this country to have had that charge put against them. And of course we'll wait to see their plea, particularly against that charge in particular, but these protests still expected across the country today.
OK, Jack, thank you.
Nice to see a bit of sunshine there in Birmingham this morning.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, have spoken to school children in Spanish, wow, as their 4-day tour of Colombia continues.
Yes, Harry and Meghan took part in an art session and they very bravely planted some trees during a visit to the school in Bogotá. Their arrival was celebrated with performances from students who wore Colombian dress and performed Colombian songs.
Well, joining us now is former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray. Morning, Charles. Hello. I know a lot of people at home are going to go, oh, Harry and Meghan, Harry and Meghan. But it's very interesting to see them doing what, to all intents and purposes, looks like a royal tour, except it's not.
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen. Yeah, I mean, it's a royal tour because they are members, albeit outside members of the royal family, and they're doing the sort of things that other members of the royal family do when they do royal tours. So from that point of view, they are they're flying the flag, but I'm not sure which flag it is they're flying, to be perfectly honest.
Well flag, aren't they? They're flying their own flag, brand Sussex, because they can't fly anything else, can they?
No, they can't. They're very much on the outskirts of the royal family. But you know, this is a tour that's a contradiction of everything. You know, we're not coming to Britain because it's a far too dangerous country. But I'm quite happy to take my wife to the 18th most dangerous country in the world. Although they're never going to be walking down the street on their own. There'll be security will be so tight, not just with their own security, which is private security, which they pay for, but with the Colombian security as well, which will be, you know, they can't take a risk that anything could possibly happen to Meghan or Harry, not on their watch.
No, I'll tell you what I do find interesting in terms of just the odd things about all of this, Charles. I mean, I don't know how many places they went to on the first day, but it was, 10 or 12 different venues that they popped into. Meghan seemed to have a different outfit on at each one.
Well, yeah, I don't have an argument with that. I mean, other royal tours, other members of the royal family, they have various outfits which they change into. It's so that people can see them in different styles of dress, and also it gives the photographers as well a chance to have another photograph of something slightly different. Notice Harry doesn't change all that much, but the blokes don't normally do. They're always in black or grey suits, or as we see with Harry, with no tie now. So it's quite attempting to be quite relaxed.
And I find it a bit sad almost to watch how good they are at doing what they're doing now in Colombia. And yet, if they'd only stayed within the royal family, they could be doing the job properly for the good of the nation, couldn't they, instead of just their own brand?
You're absolutely right. And let's, again, not forget that when Harry and Meghan were members of the royal family and were doing their, royal duties and tours, they did it well. There is no question about that. They did the right things. They met the right people. They shook the right hands. They shared the same jokes. They gave them all hugs exactly the same way as William and Catherine do, the King and Camilla, and other members of the royal family. So it is a great pity that they decided to desert this country and, plough their own trough, really.
OK, Charles, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
If you like things properly royal, they've started a serialisation of another royal book in the Daily Mail today. And it's lovely. It's by author Craig Brown, who's written... he sort of starts off on what was 2 years ago, I'll get it right, when the Queen died. And he starts on looking at what...
2 years?
It's 2 years.
Is it? Good grief.
Yeah. King Charles has been king for 2 years, hasn't he? I know, exactly. September the 8th, because, of course, I remember that was my birthday, yeah. And he details what happened on that day, how various members of the family came together, where Prince Harry was. Prince Harry texted William straight away saying, all right, Granny's just died, as you know, I need to come up with you. When are you flying up? Never got a reply, apparently. So he had to make his own way, and as we now know, he arrived there a bit late. He details that, but the author also goes into what was happening all around the country and lots of various different people who had a response. And there's this lovely story that is just from a member of the public, but he obviously discovered the story. It was Mike Hattersley from Milnthorpe in Cumbria.
Milnthorpe.
Yeah, I thought you might know it. He wrote to the Times saying in 1954 his mum took him, he was only 7, and his brother, who was 9, to witness the Queen's arrival at Bradford Town Hall. Right. But they couldn't get to the front at all. The 2 little boys were crying because they couldn't see the Queen. They knew she was there, but they couldn't get to the front. And their mother was so upset for them that next time they got a chance to go and see the Queen, which was in Manningham Station, once again they couldn't get anywhere near. So the 2 little boys were again in tears. And the mum thought, hang on a minute, they're on the royal train. So she went a bit further up the rail, the railway, and she plonked her boys on a wall. She couldn't see, but she put them on top of the wall, and she said, the royal train will go past at some point. Just wave. And apparently what happened was, after the music and cheering at the station died down, half a mile to our right, the royal train started to come towards us. Behind a glass carriage door stood our Queen and Prince Philip. They'd thrown off their coats, and they stood together looking out with their arms around each other. No doubt they were glad that their duties were over, but when they saw 2 little boys sitting on the wall, they came alive, really waving just for us. That wasn't duty, that was love. Isn't that lovely? The book's full of little stories like that. So
that's really nice.
Isn't it?
Really nice.
You just see those 2 little boys sitting on the wall, and they caught the Queen and Prince Philip in an off-duty moment.
That's which is very unusual.
Brilliant.
Oh, no, lovely. Great little story. That might be a book worth getting. Right, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom. At 8:16, and 2 men have received the longest prison sentences yet in relation to rioting that erupted in parts of England and Northern Ireland. 48-year-old David Wilkinson was jailed for 6 years. 25-year-old John Honey, 4 years and 8 months.
Ukraine has destroyed a strategically important bridge over the River Seine as they continue with their incursion into the Kursk region. The bridge is apparently used by the Kremlin to supply their troops, and it links the areas of Kursk which are still controlled by Russia. President Zelensky confirmed the Ukrainian troops were strengthening their positions in the region.
And amid rising tensions in the Middle East, there is some hope of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Foreign Secretary David Lammy was in Israel yesterday with his French counterpart. The US Secretary of State gets there today. President Biden, speaking to the media just a few hours ago, remained pretty hopeful.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we got a shot.
Lovely day for the in-laws yesterday.
Very nice in the garden. Should be nice today as well.
Yeah. Will it be good? Let's find out from Alex Burkill.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe one or two coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but one or two are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, how about some real money to spend this summer? It's your last chance, well, for the next 2 weeks it is, to take part in the Great British Giveaway. £30,000 we're giving away this time. Here's the details.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours, but time is ticking. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, we're going to be talking about train strikes in a moment. What needs to be done? Is Labour being too soft with the unions? Discussing that in just a moment.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
You'll relate to this one. We've all been there, haven't we? Tensions high in the car as you head off on the latest adventure or holiday during the summer break.
Now, with the average family set to spend about 3.5 hours a week together in the car driving on the roads during the holidays, new research has shown that our relationships could be tested to the limit.
Yes, figures show that 21% are having arguments for simple things like the driver going the wrong way, which we were saying is not actually very simple. That's very serious.
I was going to say that. I'm surprised it's just 21%.
Yeah.
If I was going the wrong way down the road,
you'd know about
You'd hear from me.
A further 20% squabbling over how their partner drives, yes, and 25% admitting to being more prone to rowing when their kids are misbehaving. It's a lot to deal with, isn't it?
Fair enough.
Well, we're joined now by dating and relationship coach and author Persia Lawson. Good to see you this morning, Persia. What is it about being in a car that just makes things so tense?
Well, I think it's probably quite obvious, isn't it? It's the fact that we are in a confined space, we can't go anywhere, and it can just really create so much tension and stress, especially if you and your other half or a family member, whoever you're in the car with, are going through a little bit of a tricky time. And if it's really hot outside, that doesn't help either. So inevitably, it creates a lot of irritation and bickering, I would say, from my experience.
And what is it about children? If you add children into the mix, it just makes things very, very difficult, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of, are we there yet?
Yeah.
Kicking the back seat and just squabbles, kicking the siblings. So adding children into the mix is just going to turn the heat up on that tension.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, the Prime Minister's under pressure over pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors. Now, that's because train drivers on LNER, so looks like they're about to settle their dispute with a 15% pay rise, are actually now organising a new series of strikes, claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and the breaking of agreements.
So they're basically saying it's a whole new strike. Hundreds of members of ASLEF are going to walk out every weekend between the end of this month for a total of 22 days.
Let's talk to research fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Len Shackleton. Morning to you, Len. Look, is this right that unions are flexing their muscles, or is Labour just giving them an open door?
Combination of both of those. The unions are very streetwise, of course, and are prepared to use their power when they get these opportunities. This LNER thing is a very strange business. Of course, LNER is one of the it's already nationalised. It's already part of the public sector, and it's a little bit worrying that, you know, with a total takeover of the rail companies by the government, that we're going to see more of this in the future.
Very political, doesn't it? That the unions here, despite having a generous pay offer, a lot of people think almost too generous and very quick, suddenly have invented a whole new reason to strike. Maybe that's unfair because they'd always complained about certain conditions. But, you know, it's almost as though they're saying to the government, all right, we didn't like the Tory government, but we don't like you either. We're still in charge.
Yes, well, this business of rostering is really what this is about. the contract which ASLEF have makes weekend working voluntary, and of course this makes it very difficult for management. And what I gather is happening in LNER is that management are sort of pressurising people to work at weekends, which is perfectly understandable because so many trains have been cancelled at the weekends, and the union is saying no, you can't hassle us like this. And yet they won't make a new deal, which would change the contract, which is what the Conservatives wanted to do, and why they held out for so long and didn't make this kind of settlement, which the government have now done.
It's worrying a lot of people, and it may be unjust. I don't know, but the idea that this is going to turn into a general free-for-all for unions of various colours. I mean, what are we to make of the RMT? Now, sticking to the sort of rail network, I mean, they've settled, but now seem to be saying, hold on a minute, ASLEF have got a better deal than we did, we want more. Yes,
they want to turn, have a look again at the agreement which they made some time ago, and that's a worrying thing. If we're going to get into retrospective changes, we may also see that, of course, in the health service, where the nurses and some other auxiliary workers settled some time ago at a much lower rate than the junior doctors have managed to win. So this is all. It's very much in the public sector, of course. It's not, as yet, unions in the private sector are considerably weaker than in the public sector. I think in the public sector, it's something like 49% of workers are in unions, whereas in the private sector, it's only about 13%. Labour say they're going to make it easier for unions to recruit and to be recognised, and we may see a spread of this to the private sector over the next few years.
So what should the Labour government do about this? Clearly, they thought that if they would reasonably settle some of the outstanding strikes that were costing the country money anyway, they thought that would be the way forward. But if union after union after union is going to threaten or do strikes, then what is their way forward? How can they solve this?
Well, I think they've been rather naive. You have to recognise that very few of the people currently in government have any experience of what things were like in the past. I mean, Keir Starmer is, I think, the oldest member of the cabinet at the age of 61, and he was a teenager when the unions were at their peak in the 70s, and we had the winter of discontent and all that kind of thing. And politics says that the Conservatives were horrible to the unions. Labour want to be sympathetic, want to help, but I think they've been very naive in sort of giving in, rolling over at their first opportunity, in the belief that this would resolve problems indefinitely. I don't think it will. I think it will encourage further problems in the future.
Do we need to look back at the early Blair years, perhaps? I mean, maybe I'm seeing it through slightly odd perspective now, but it certainly seemed like the new Labour ideal was actually reasonably Thatcherite when it came to the unions. They didn't seem to bow down to them in the same way.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, whatever people think of them now, were very sensible in not trying to reverse the Thatcherite reforms to the labour market. They remembered the last days of the Callaghan government, which had been where the unions were just rampant, and Tony Blair was determined that we're not going to go back to that kind of thing, and he held the unions at considerable distance. He didn't really make any significant change to Thatcher and Major's reforms to industrial relations, whereas the current government, as I say, are a very considerable distance in time from the Callaghan period, don't remember it, and haven't learnt the lessons in the way that Tony Blair did.
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue as well that Tony Blair simply didn't have to face the awfulness that was faced earlier, particularly by Thatcher. She'd done the dirty work, hadn't she, already?
Well, you could say that, yes. I mean, Tony Blair was a very clever operator, and I think he was very wise to stay at some length, some distance from the unions. We shall see what happens with this lot, but they've not made a great start, I think. That's the problem.
Just to wrap up, Len, what's your prediction moving forward? Do you think the government can still get a handle on this, or are we likely to see, if not more strikes, at least the threat of more strikes in the coming months?
I think we are going to see the threat of more strikes right across the public sector. The railways or the train drivers are the vanguard of this, but I think there's plenty more to come.
OK, Len Shackleton, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Gosh, I remember those days when the unions went crazy. I think they just went power mad, or at least that's what we felt. Couldn't get anything done in broadcasting. You just couldn't get anything done. Every time you wanted to do anything, there was a union reason why you couldn't. Or somebody would go on strike, or somebody would, what they called black it. Used to go out and do films during the day, make news reports, come back to edit it, and they would just black it. There would always be some reason, and it was terrible. It was terrible, and Margaret Thatcher was very strong. I mean, of course, that's why she is still to this day very unpopular with people. I mean, people hate her, but not all people do, because she was charged with doing something about it. Smashing the unions is how a lot of people put it, but that's what she did, and it was very nasty and it was very bloody.
I have some sympathy with Keir Starmer. Got to be honest, in thinking, oh, well, we'll sort this out. We'll get in and we'll sort it out. We're going to get on with stuff really quickly. But has it just been absolutely naive? Is it just, well, and Len Shackleton seems to think, yes, it's just opened the door to unions going, right, lads, here we go, what do you want? Now's the time to get it.
That's what it feels like. I do hope it doesn't end up being that bad.
Fingers crossed.
But they must be worrying now. What do we do next? Because clearly what we're seeing at the moment, Border Force, LNER, other things, what else is happening? There are lots of... It's going to build, the doctors.
GPs.
Yeah, GPs.
I mean, I tell you what, if they give in on any other issue now...
It must be a free-for-all,
then
isn't it?
It's a free-for-all. So they're going to just have to toe the line, which means it's going to get messy. They'll be in the same position the last government was. As
we said during the election, who would want the job?
Yeah, they're all crackers.
Yeah.
They're all crackers. Talking of which...
Aidan McGee is going to be
He's definitely crackers.
In a few moments, talking about the sport.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
John Steinbeck once said of his 1939 novel The Grapes of Wrath that he intended to rip a reader's nerves to rags. Well, GB News sent its famously delicate Stefan Kyriazis to see an adaptation of the work in a London theatre, and somehow he's made it into the studio today. Give people a tiny background about The Grapes of Wrath. It's about the Depression, isn't it?
Yes, it's the Great Plains, which were absolutely ravaged by droughts. They'd completely overfarmed the topsoil, so they had all these huge dust storms, and basically the farms were worthless. So they reckon in the 1930s, about 3.5 million people left this huge central agrarian area of America, and this is a very poor, white working region. Often, many of them headed for the coast to California to this dream of orange groves, white houses, plentiful work. And we focus in on the Joad family, very poor, very working class. Tom Joad has just got out of prison for homicide in self-defence, and he's played by one of the Treadaways, Luke Treadaway, who I confused with his twin Harry.
Understandably.
They are identical. And so they pack everything into this kind of old-fashioned jalopy. It's a bit like Beverly Hillbillies, but not humorous. And I think there's about 13 people crammed, hanging off the sides, and they embark on this odyssey across the country. So there's all these huge themes about migration, about prejudice. They are viewed as an underclass by other Americans. So although they're migrants, they're not quite immigrants, but they're treated very poorly, as almost subhuman. When they get there, the dream turns out to be false, the pay is terrible, and then very often when they take the job the next day, the pay is halved. It's a terrible life.
It's a very angry novel.
It's an angry, dark novel.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hayden's joined us now with the sport. Let's talk about United first. How are they doing?
Yeah, why not? I mean, look, they were first out of the blocks last night. Always pressure on United. I mean, look, any time of the year, any given day, and because it's Manchester United. It's 11 years since they won the Premier League. You were quite shocked to learn that, weren't you?
Actually,
it was that long since they won the Premier League.
You always imagine they're always up there winning them all the time.
You do. Well, when I covered them up there and I was living up there, it was always said, it was always suggested to me that as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson departs the scene, that's when the problems would start. And
well,
that's
exactly
what happened.
That's exactly what happened. They just went into free fall almost immediately as it happened. They went from Premier League champions to finishing 7th the following year. They finished 8th last season. They did win a trophy with the FA Cup. Made a couple of signings in the summer, had their strategic football review, where they effectively looked for a new manager and then decided that, we can't find anyone, so the current bloke's going to have to do. And that increased Erik ten Hag's power base in some ways.
Was Ten Hag there from the beginning?
No, he was there. Well, he was there he joined in the summer of 2022, and he's made some progress in cup competitions. But it's the league that's where Manchester United really want to make some progress, and they just haven't done it in the last couple of years. But
why not?
Year, because, well, it's bedraggled by the players are bedraggled by the weight of expectation. That's what's really going on here, and some of them aren't good enough. The recruitment hasn't been good enough. The takeover has happened in the last year or so. It took a while to go over the line. The previous owners were not the previous owners, but the current owners were running the football side of things.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And they stepped back and sold the football side of the business to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. And that's where they're going to be judged this season, because it's going to be their first summer with their feet under the table. They've made big changes. They've put £156 million into transfers already. There's no sign that might end. I mean, there's still a while yet to go before the transfer window is upon us.
You can't just buy your way out of problems, though, can you?
Depends who you buy. Depends who you buy. But if you're buying unproven players, they're signing players now who are slightly younger, so they can do what they used to do and try and get resale value. So give them 4 good years, and then hopefully make some money back on what you paid. Potential these days is worth far more, peculiarly, than proven. I would rather have a proven player in the building who I know can do stuff and know can perform on the pitch.
Well, you have to have a good mix, I suppose, don't you?
I guess you do, yeah. I guess you do. And look, they got out of the blocks last night, as I said. They won 1-0, a late goal against Fulham. So it's a fixture they normally win, but Joshua Zirkzee on his debut was brought on with half an hour to go, Dutch player. Signed from Bologna in the summer for £36 million, and he came on and did the job. Just a slight feint of a touch was all it needed to get it into the bottom corner. But Fulham had the better opportunities, it has to be said. I thought they were going to nick it. But as I say, a win is a win is a win, and we're on to today in the Premier League matches.
That's good for him, though, isn't it? Is that what they call bringing on new legs or something?
Yeah. Fresh legs.
Yeah, fresh legs.
Fresh legs. You love it. You're getting into all this. Yeah. Both of you getting into football lingo.
Yeah, I don't know why.
This is the Euros.
It is the Euros.
It is the Euros. Yeah, exactly. So we're seeing some new town facing.
That must have felt wonderful for him, though, coming on.
Yeah, well, he spoke after the game. He said he couldn't have planned it better.
Surname that nobody can even spell. Out he goes there.
Well,
and he scores the goal.
Interesting. Aziz was the headline on the back of the Star today.
How do you actually spell his surname?
Zirkzee. His first name.
Zirkzee.
Yeah. But Ipswich Town, they're facing Liverpool today, and I'm going to bring in a very special guest now, an old friend of mine, a former Ipswich Town captain, Luke Chambers. Luke, good morning to you, first of all, here on GB News. You still live in Suffolk, having retired from playing. But tell me what a big event this is going to be in your neck of the woods today, especially with Liverpool in town.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Oh, you wouldn't believe the excitement around Suffolk now, and especially Ipswich. There's a sea of blue everywhere. I've been out this morning, I've seen shirts aplenty. Just the excitement from being away for so long, 22 years, is just something like the town won't have seen, and it's a generational event today.
Talk to me about the scale of the achievement as well, Luke, because quite frankly, 3 or 4 years ago, the club was going nowhere. It was languishing in League One. They've turned it around quickly with the aid of this guy, Kieran McKenna, who was a former coach at Manchester United. He's even been touted to join Manchester United even at quite a young age. What's he done in those couple of years?
Well, first and foremost, he's just a tremendous coach, and his experiences working with Jose Mourinho and the like at Man United, and his pedigree from Tottenham as a young coach, to bring in every single player that he has and the existing playing squad that he inherited. The way he's improved every single player in his squad has just been remarkable. And what's helped as well is obviously the transition of a takeover, bringing in new ownership. They've all been aligned in their decision making and their sort of plan. But they'll know that they're 3 or 4 years ahead of their plan that they put in place when they first took over. So that's not going to put them off, but there's been a hell of a lot of work that's had to be done. But as a coach and a manager, me speaking to the players personally, they're just absolutely sort of astounded by his achievement and how he's improved that club.
They're doing things a little bit different, aren't they, compared to Luton Town last summer? They seem to be having a go. Calvin Phillips, Sammy Smodics, of course, the former Colchester player who joined this week from Blackburn Rovers. They seem to be upping the ante a little bit, and they're trying to cling on and maybe stay for a little bit longer than the one season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they've been quite smart in their recruitment, because at the end of the day, it is going to be a very, very difficult season. They're not going to be confused by that. But what they have done is bought really, really promising Championship players that they feel that they can improve and hopefully make that step up to the Premier League. But worst case scenario, as a club, like I say, they're 3 years ahead of that plan. If they do fail to achieve staying up, they're going to have another fantastic squad to have another go of bouncing straight back. But I think they've timed the last 2 signings perfectly. 2 days and a day before the start of the season, they've brought in Calvin Felix, England pedigree, Man City, tremendous footballer, and obviously the top scoring Championship player from last season, Sammy Smodics. So they've timed it perfectly, which will increase the excitement and the buzz going into Portman Road today.
Now, those watching a couple of hours ago will have noticed that Anne and Stephen were the ones who told me, the sports guy, that Ed Sheeran had bought a minority stake in Ipswich Town. To be fair, he's been knocking around the club for quite a few years. He was watching them right back when you played, wasn't he, Luke?
Yeah, and it just gives the club an even bigger profile, especially globally, because obviously with the American owners now, that's what they want to do. They want to improve the fortunes of the club. And someone like Ed Sheeran, he was watching us when we were struggling in League One at times and at the back end of the Championship seasons. But again, when you know he's there, the excitement again around the club, and it just adds another layer to the sort of fairy tale of the story, really.
Luke, just tell me, just briefly, as we close off, what will Liverpool face as they go into Portman Road today? Because I'm not going to say they're not going to fancy it, they're far too professional for that, but the atmosphere might be a little bit difficult compared to what they're used to.
Yeah, I think with their playing squad, they'll be used to playing in the stadiums they have, so it's going to be an unknown quantity for them. And the excitement and the partisan crowd that will be there today, it'll just be an absolute event. I think even at the end of last season, you had away coaches arriving at the stadium, a sea of flares and thousands of people lining the streets, and that's what the club have seemed to have done. That they've galvanised the support, and when they do walk out to that stadium, and they'll be used to big crowds, don't get me wrong, but it'll be certainly a different experience for them, because, like I say, that 22 years of frustration will just come that time when they walk out that tunnel. It will just be a sea of blue and a tremendous noise.
Listen, Luke, thanks very much indeed for joining us right here on GB News. We hope you enjoyed the Liverpool game today. It'll be fascinating to find out just how Ipswich get on throughout the season.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this Luke was good to me, actually, whenever a few years ago, whenever I needed a QPR ticket, whenever QPR played Ipswich Road, he always left one on the gate for me.
A little backhander.
Right friends to have.
There you go.
Just looked after me.
Aidan, thanks very much. You're talking about looking after people, looking after yourself. Just an interest. It's the different perspectives you put forward, and this really strikes me. Pauline's been in touch. She says, myself and hubby worked all of our life to make sure we didn't go on to benefits in our old age. Because of this, we have our heating allowance taken away. I have to say, if I ever come back in a new life, I'll sit on my backside and claim universal credit. That way I'll be entitled to everything I need. I can totally get where you're coming from.
Me too, yeah.
Anyway, look, we're going to take you through the papers in a couple of minutes. Claire Muldoon and Kevin Schofield are here.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, to enrich us on the best cheeses and wine to buy, I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Inflorescence, Jacinta Madison Wilson. Jacinta, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also, thank you so much for bringing what is
what a Sunday you're having.
of wonderful... What do we have before us?
So, we've got 3 gorgeous wines to try today. We've got an English sparkling, we've got a beautiful rosé and a dessert wine, and, of course, cheese.
Wonderful.
And paired them all beautifully.
Now, English sparkling wine has had a bit of a renaissance.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it?
To use a French word to describe English sparkling wine. It's having a bit of a moment in the sun.
Absolutely. I just think it's so exciting that this is right on our doorstep, essentially, an hour out of London, and we're around beautiful vineyards.
The chalk sort of sediment is exactly the same as the Champagne region of France.
Yeah, our soils are really similar. We use the same grape varieties a lot of the time. We make it in exactly the same way as Champagne. Our climate is like Champagne was 40 to 50 years ago. So we're really kind of drinking it blind. You almost wouldn't know that you're not drinking champagne. But it's right here on our doorstep. We can stay local now.
Absolutely marvellous. Well, we've got... what is the best order to start?
OK, well, we're going to start with sparkling, because all things in life should start with sparkling. I got married a month ago, and this was actually the... Thank you so much. This was the wine I chose to have as our first wine that we served the guests. This is from a winery called Bluebell, which is in Sussex, and I've chosen to pair this with a lovely... kind of the English version of Camembert, which is called Tunworth. It's a very classic pairing of Champagne and Brie. So we're kind of going to do the English version of that now. Absolutely. Are you ready to get stuck in?
I am so...
OK.
Hang on. Is it cheese first or wine first?
I'd have a little sip of the wine first.
Sip of the wine, bite
have
of the
a little bite of the cheese, and then some more wine. Get it all mixed up in there.
It's like a cheese sandwich.
Exactly.
OK, here
Cheers.
we go. Cheers.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
All right, so we go through the papers this morning. Journalist Claire Muldoon and political editor at HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, are here. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's this in the Telegraph, Claire?
Yeah.
That Anglicans, Church of England, are dropping the word church.
I know.
Or, well, thinking about it.
They just don't say the word church anymore.
Well, they're just all into rebranding, aren't they? What is it with the life that we live at the moment, where you just can't call out what people are, you can't say what things are? There has to be change around the nomenclature of things.
So what are they saying instead of church?
Communities. So the dictionary definition of a church is the actual place, not only of worship, but the place, the fabric of where people congregate, hence congregation, as a form of service to a religious body, in this place, God and the Church of England. So why on earth would the Church of England want to remove the word church from anything? Why bring in communities, our church, our Anglican community?
Get more bums on seats. Is that people maybe are put off by the word church? Feels a bit religious. So you see,
well, I'm sorry, Kevin, but that's what it is.
Community feels a bit more welcoming.
But
so
there's been talk of
rubbish.
Talk of the Anglican community has been around for a very long time. I mean, for generations.
Since Henry VIII, I think you'll find.
So Yeah, but the term Anglican community, in terms of the global Anglican community, has been there for a long time. So that in itself isn't new, but you can't drop the word church.
No. Well, apparently they are increasingly. It's been noticed that this is happening.
I know. I just think call it what it is. You know, and just get on with it. And if people are dwindling in their faith, then there's other issues for it. By changing the fabric of where you worship will not bring more people in.
Let's not deny churches, because they're amazing buildings, most of them, aren't they? And they're worth going into and having a little look at.
Churches.
Yeah, they are churches.
You can't mistake them for anything.
Well, you can tell the Catholic ones, because all the Catholic ones were removed at the Reformation, so all the nice ones are the Church of England ones.
Well, there are still some nice Catholic ones around. But they changed the whole fabric of the landscape, don't they?
Yes.
You can always see the church steeple.
Yeah.
It's something that it's really important.
Yes, it's the centre of a lot of villages.
I would say it's part of the English identity, the Church of England.
Yeah.
And indeed, even though the scenes might be a tad bucolic, as you say, you will see the steeple. Remember, you see the church and there's a steeple, look inside and there's the people.
Oh, yes, I remember. Did you ever do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I've done that, yes, I have done that with the kids, enjoy that.
They don't do that anymore, do they? I've never seen a child do that. That's wonderful. I've forgotten that.
Kevin, should we look at some compensation, but this time for people who own zombie knives?
Yeah, so on the face
Why are they
of
being compensated rather than arrested?
Well, because they're going to be banned, finally outlawed. I mean, this has been announced and re-announced for, I think, when Theresa May was the Prime Minister, was the first time they were banned. So it's been going on for years, but they will have finally become illegal on the 24th of September. So before that, there's a month-long amnesty. So if you currently have a zombie knife, you will be compensated if you hand it in. So
That's
up to
ridiculous.
90 quid.
Well, is it? Because it...
But then that encourage people
Well,
to
no,
hand them
because
back,
the incentive should be hand it in and we'll do nothing, or you're going to get arrested and charged with possession of a zombie knife.
Yeah.
Not, here's your money back.
But if someone's got it in their house, the police aren't going to know it's there until it's too late. And yeah, they're taking it out to use it, in which case, if you're going to be using it, you're going to get lifted
So
anyway.
they've taken the
But
fuel
this
allowance off of pensioners, and they're rewarding young youths and people in the position of potentially life-ending knives, and yet they're giving them money? I don't get this.
To me,
I really don't get this.
I think it's a way of encouraging them to hand them in.
Me too. Surely, otherwise they're just not going to hand them in.
It's better to get them off the street, surely.
No, the knives themselves cost more than they're getting for the compensation. So what are they going to use the compensation money for? Eh?
I think they get the going rate, whatever the going rate is for a zombie. I think it's up to 90 quid.
Oh, it's just horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific. The amnesty should be there to get the knives off the street,
and
that is it.
We're out of time. Sorry, you two. Thank you, though. Let's have a look at the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning it a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe one or two coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in dark. double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but one or two are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours, but time is ticking. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is a big old headache because we talk a lot about GP appointments, don't we? But certainly almost everyone I know struggles to see a dentist when they need one.
Yes. You know the best time to go to a dentist? When? 2:30. 2:30.
That's actually quite good. It's better than my gags.
The guy that went into Goa, to India, to get his dental treatment, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, this is how desperate people are to get treatment now. So what's the story?
OK, the story is a guy couldn't get an appointment at the NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants and things like that. Well,
yeah. I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
Turkey teeth.
Turkey teeth. Well, now
that's when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down, but in many cases they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements. So you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Please, can I have an emergency appointment? I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected." She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. Rail strikes on the way.
Train drivers announce new strikes, with Border Force staff also set to walk out of their jobs.
All this just days after the Prime Minister promised them a whopping great pay rise.
Police on standby across the country as anti-immigration protests and counter-protests are planned for Dover and Birmingham.
Well, protests expected across the country as the government confirms more than 460 people arrested in connection with violent disorder and almost 100 sent to prison.
Is there a ceasefire in sight? Foreign secretaries from the United States, France and the UK head to Israel as world powers try to negotiate for peace.
And new details emerge of Matthew Perry's last day as 5 people are arrested over his death.
Also this hour, England's largest independent flower show celebrates its centenary this year in Southport as the community comes together following the tragedy there.
Good morning. A new dawn or a false dawn? It might be a while before we find that out for sure, but Manchester United did at least make a winning start to the Premier League last night. We'll hear about that, as well as all the other opening day matches ahead.
I have some good news if it's fine and warm weather you're after, with plenty of it this weekend. Stay tuned for the full forecast.
Just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Good news, there's some movement at home. The in-laws are up.
Oh.
claiming...
Because they had quite an evening last night, didn't they?
Claiming that their heads are feeling fine.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Don't believe it.
It was a surprise, lovely day yesterday.
It was gorgeous
I wasn't
yesterday.
expecting good weather yesterday, and it was just a really nice surprise.
24 degrees, was it?
Yeah, which is sort of proper British summer day, isn't it? It's not too exhaustingly hot.
No.
It just is lovely.
I fell asleep at about 5:30. I didn't feel tired, but I think the sun must have just...
Yeah.
Were you in the garden?
I was playing football out in the local park.
Oh, right.
Do a bit of practice in the goals. Great stuff. Yeah,
I was planting peonies.
Oh, were you? Oh, very nice.
Ordered them on the internet. They came in an enormous box. My postman said, the postman delivered an enormous box of plants inside. And he said, you're going to need a bigger garden. And I thought, no, but I've got lots of pots to pot, so I've potted them up. This will probably be the last weekend of the summer. From now on, it'll be frost, and they'll all be killed.
You said that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and
you said it a few weeks ago.
Right. And
you
said
about a month ago.
So I think we'll be all right.
Anne said about a month ago, it's the last of summer.
Yeah.
And I believed you.
Yeah, well, I was nearly right.
I put my sun hat away.
Yeah, no, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. I'm forever hopeful that we're going to be fine for the next 3 weeks.
Well, I hope so, because I want my flowers to last a bit.
Yeah. Peonies are lovely.
They are, they're lovely.
Very nice. Right, let's crack on with the news, because the Prime Minister's under pressure over pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors. That's because train drivers on LNER, who've just settled on one deal, are now going to stage a series of strikes claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and the breaking of agreements.
Hundreds of members of ASLEF will walk out every weekend, apparently, between the end of this month and November. A total of 22 days, they're saying they'll walk out for.
Earlier, we spoke to travel correspondent at The Independent, Simon Calder.
Right, well, we got the strikes out of the way. We're in the third summer of strikes by train drivers. Now we've got these 1 million problems about the railways we've got to sort out. And then suddenly we're going on strike again. I literally couldn't believe it. This is a completely separate dispute to the pay dispute, which was settled very, very quickly by effectively throwing money at the problem, giving the drivers what they wanted, which was what amounts to a 15% pay rise over 3 years without any strings attached. So they managed to get that all settled. The train drivers are voting on it, but everybody assumes that it will be given an overwhelming majority. This is a separate dispute, as Anne says, about working arrangements, about relationships on the East Coast Main Line. This is LNER. It runs from London to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. And it's not actually just Saturdays. From the 31st of August, and that's a date we'll come back to, I think, in a minute, it will be every Saturday and Sunday until the 10th of November. 22 days, as you say, and this isn't just any old line. This is the UK's flagship railway line at a time when so many people, whether they're families, whether they're holiday makers, whether they're students, absolutely depend on that line. And it was quite interesting to see how Louise Haigh, the Transport Secretary, reacted, which is, oh, well, this sounds terrible. They really must talk to each other. LNER sort it out. She doesn't have to go very far to find the people who are running LNER, because it's her office, the Department for Transport, actually controls LNER. So it's not this great narrative that's been playing out all the way through the election campaign. Privatised companies, they're terrible. This is one which is already in public ownership. There is this sense, which the rail unions have always had, which is that the railways are too important to fail. If you just keep striking long enough, you will get what you want. And, well, that seems to have played out, but ultimately I have done the working on this, £240 per second being paid by the government, by taxpayers, to keep a pretty ramshackle railway going. I think taxpayers, people who'd be watching this, never go near a train, some of them. They're thinking, how much are we paying and what are we getting? It's a tough, tough time.
£240 a second.
When you put it like that, it's awful, isn't it? But we are going through a very, very tough time at the moment. The question is whether it's going to get worse or whether in the end it will get better.
Well, it will get better in the end, eventually.
It depends how long you've got to wait.
Well, yeah.
And what happens in between times.
Yeah, but it will get better eventually. That's what I'm telling myself. Anyway, right, police forces are going to be on alert today amid planned protests and gatherings across the country. Anti-immigration protests expected in Dover and Birmingham and elsewhere, whilst Stand Up to Racism, the campaign group, are also going to take to the streets.
And this all comes as new data has shown that 460 people now have been arrested in connection with the violent disorder we saw earlier this month, and hundreds are facing their day in court.
Let's head to Birmingham and our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson. So what are they bracing themselves for there, Jack?
Well, we know there's certainly going to be a Stand Up to Racism protest here in the city centre. It's very much going to be a repeat of what we saw here in Birmingham last weekend when there was a similar demonstration. West Midlands Police responding to that and the online rumours of a possible anti-immigration protest, saying that they've got a plan to respond to any kind of incident. In a statement yesterday, their Superintendent Jack Hadley from the force, West Midlands Police, said he wants to reassure everyone visiting this city today that they are fully prepared to see any protest taking place, trying to make the point that policing is not anti-protest in his words, they're anti-crime. They're here to protect the public and keep the peace, of course, here on the streets. There had been criticisms of West Midlands Police over the past few weeks for how they've responded to different protests, different disorder that we've seen here in this city. Now, last Wednesday, more than a week ago, there were planned anti-immigration protests in the Jewellery Quarter area of this city. They did not take place, but a huge showing from Stand Up to Racism, that campaign and their supporters peacefully marched through the city and no arrests were made. They managed, the police, to manage that successfully. They'll be hoping to have a very similar demonstration today that is peaceful and no trouble, but they're talking about the visible policing presence. You can probably see the police van behind me. We've seen officers already this morning walking up and down this high street. It's very much that visible presence to try and provide the reassurance to people here about any disorder that might well take place, to reassure them that they'll be able to respond quickly. And it comes as we get this latest data from the government and the Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood talking about seeing swift justice being done. So just to break down that data a little bit that we've got in the past 24 hours from them, 460 people, they say, have now been arrested in connection with the violent disorder and protests that we've seen in the last few weeks. 99 already having been sentenced, 69 of those having received a custodial sentence. Now, that very much the government are hoping is going to be a deterrent to any more serious violence, any more serious violent disorder that is possibly planned by certain groups across this country over the coming days, today, the weekend, and in the coming weeks as well. As you were mentioning there, protests planned here in Birmingham, also Stand Up to Racism planning a demonstration in Dover as well as in Portsmouth today as well. And that deterrent seems to so far be working. Now, very much what we've seen so far is people being charged with violent disorder. That carries a sentence of up towards 5 years maximum in prison. And we heard last week the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, saying that there was a new phase of people coming towards being charged, and this new phase would include maybe charges of a more serious offence of rioting. That can carry a custodial sentence of up to 10 years. And just yesterday we had the first person, a 15-year-old boy, becoming the first person to be charged with rioting. The government are hoping that continues to be a deterrent as we face possibly more protests across the country today.
OK, Jack, thanks very much indeed.
Well, amid rising tensions in the Middle East, there is renewed hope that a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas may be on the horizon. The Foreign Secretary David Lammy was in Israel yesterday alongside his French counterpart, and the US Secretary of State arrives today. President Biden, speaking to the media, said he was hopeful.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we got a shot.
Oh, and earlier we spoke to the defence editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox.
In a rather messy way, these talks are condemned to succeed, probably over quite a long time, because all sides seem to have reached what they say in military terms. It's a very good one, culminating point. It's really where you much more with the resources that you've got. Hezbollah, the agent of Iran, really doesn't want a war on the north of Israel because it's going to cost them, and they know that, and cost them their position in Lebanon, such that it is, but it is running part of the government there, or most of it. And Iran is huffing and puffing and really doesn't know what to do next, because it can't repeat what it did April the 13th. Big attack, only one got through. America, big missile submarine and a new carrier group. The submarine is ominous. It can carry up to 140 Tomahawk missiles. So that is the message to Iran. If you're thinking of bombing Israel, however you do it, you're going to get whacked back.
It's whether there is some actual... I mean, Robert was sort of saying that they may be sort of just edging towards a ceasefire because there's nothing else on the horizon yet.
Let's hope it's right. I mean, Robert is brilliant. It's lovely to hear Robert actually sort of analyse the facts of it, and he knows such a lot as well, the sort of background. But, I mean, maybe that is hopeful at last. It won't be sudden, and it won't be like an announcement, I wouldn't have thought.
No.
It'll just be
Peter out.
slow and sure, with any luck. But what do you do about all of the people in Palestine? Well, that aren't in Palestine anymore.
I don't know.
What do you do with Gaza?
And rebuilding.
How can you possibly rebuild it? It's been smashed to pieces.
And plus, and then, of course, Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu says, you know, he wanted to maintain some control of Gaza. Well, obviously, that isn't going to work in terms of maintaining any sort of peace.
Well, I suppose that would be the conditions on which he'd allow the people to come back. But what do they come back to? And who actually does the rebuilding?
Because without, whatever your views on it, without getting all that in place, well, there'll never be any sort of peace.
It's been such a troubled part of the world for so long. Centuries and centuries and centuries. Actually, millennia. So, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to end.
We'll keep you abreast with all the developments as and when they happen, of course. Right at 14 minutes past 9, let's have a look at the weather with Alex.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, here's your Saturday morning GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of fine weather for many of us through this weekend, although there will be a few showers around and a bit of a cool breeze across northern parts. So the showers will be coming in from the west, so across western areas we're most likely to catch one. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry. Worth bearing in mind, the cloud will bubble up a bit as we go through this afternoon, so turning a little bit cloudier, but there will be a decent amount of sunshine around too, especially in the southeast. And here we're going to see temperatures peaking in the mid-20s. A bit fresher than this further north over parts of Scotland. There will be a cool breeze adding to that relatively chilly feel for some. As we go through this evening and the start of the night, there will still be some showers coming in, especially across western parts of Scotland. Some of them making their way towards more eastern areas for a time. Also, quite a few showers around the borders area as well. A few showers maybe for parts of Northern Ireland. Across much of England and Wales, though, it's actually looking largely dry. Maybe one or two coastal showers towards the west, but on the whole, a generally fine picture, though there may be just a bit more cloud than earlier on in the day. Overnight, we are going to continue to see some blustery showers affecting mainly northwestern parts of Scotland, but a few showers are possible elsewhere. For most, though, a dry night with some clear skies, and as a result, it is going to be a bit of a fresh night, perhaps compared to earlier on in the week. Temperatures falling similar to last night, really. Most towns and cities just about holding up in double figures. Through Sunday, it's going to be a similar day to today for many of us. Perhaps the position of the showers has changed a little bit. Across Scotland, they're again going to be quite frequent. Still some brisk winds here, adding to the fresher feel. Elsewhere, perhaps fewer showers than today, but one or two are still possible, especially in the west. Good deal of sunshine across England and Wales, and with that, temperatures similar to today. So again, getting into the mid-20s Celsius. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now there's 2 weeks left to get your entry in to our £30,000 Great British giveaway, the biggest prize we've given away so far this year. You've got to be in it to win it, so here's how.
We could be calling you with the news that you've won our latest Great British giveaway, an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi, I'm John from sunny North Yorkshire, and I've just won £20,000 in the GB News Great British giveaway. It didn't cost much to enter, but of course if you're not in, you can't win. And here I am, having won £20,000, and that's tax-free, so I'm rather pleased I did it.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you on that one. Still to come, we're going to be talking to a dad who's cycling about 450 miles and climbing a few mountains in the meantime as well to raise money in memory of his daughter. We'll meet him in a couple of minutes.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
Well, I'm joined now by royal biographer and former royal photographer, Ian Lloyd. Ian,
hello, Jacob.
Thank you
good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be great, isn't it? The opportunity to go around and see where the King comes onto the balcony from. Really interesting insight to how Buckingham Palace works.
It's exciting. I went yesterday, there was a press preview, and the thing that struck me first of all is that if you're the King and or the late Queen and you're on the balcony, you can't see the Mall. I mean, we all see people coming down from the top, you know, thousands of people crowding in towards Buckingham Palace. They can't see it because of this great monument to Queen Victoria called the Queen Victoria Memorial, or they call it the wedding cake, but it blocks the view. So apparently the King has a TV in there, and the late Queen did as well. So what they do is they when they're waiting to come on, they're watching the TV to see how the crowd's getting nearer the palace. And the other thing that struck me is when we were on it looking down, is you can actually see individual faces in the crowd out there, because we looked out, you know. So they do get a good view of what's happening directly underneath the palace, you know.
So they can see individuals. So if there's a friendly face in the crowd, they can see that person and possibly even wave. But they can't see that enormous mass of people you get at the big events that goes back towards Admiralty Arch.
The other thing I learned is there's a great historical link, because the person that put the east wing on the palace, because it was originally 3 sides, and Queen Victoria had, of course, 9 children, so they had to build a 4th side for all the nurseries and things. Edward Blord was the architect, but the master builder was Thomas Cubitt.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
You're just about to meet a really lovely man with a wonderful story to tell you. Last October, a family were dealt the bitterest of blows when their 3-year-old daughter died suddenly in her sleep.
Yeah, Luna Rose Vince was born with an incredibly rare genetic condition and had severe disabilities before she passed away.
But her father this Tuesday, he's Matt Vince, is going to begin to ride a bike 450 miles across Scotland, Wales and England for a very special charity he'll tell us about, but mostly in her memory.
Yeah, Matt is here. Good to see you. And it's not just actually the cycle ride, is it? You've got the 3 peaks to do while you do it.
Yeah, climbing the mountains as well, yeah.
In 4 days. So 450 miles, 3 huge peaks in 4 days.
Yeah.
How?
I don't really know, to be honest. There's been a lot of organisation going to it. We've been training hard, me and all the lads, so yeah.
Who are all the lads?
Friends from school, friends from the gym I go to, the CrossFit gym, FFH in Helsham, and yeah, everyone's just mucked in and really got together and made it happen, really.
So where does it start?
So we start in Ben Nevis, Tuesday morning, start climbing at 4 a.m. Hopefully be up and down that within 6 hours, and then straight on the bikes for 111 miles, just outside Glasgow as our first stop for the night.
So it's a mountain climb first?
Yeah.
And then you come down, and then obviously you've got a ground crew or whatever.
Yeah, 2 sport
vehicles. And you get on your bikes. It's going to be a bit like that triathlon thing that we saw in the Olympics.
Yeah.
You do one thing, and then you get immediately on a bike and just start riding to where next?
So it'll be down from Ben Nevis, ride to just outside Glasgow, and then Glasgow to Southport to the Lake District, where Scarfell is, and then same again to Wales, to climb Snowdon at the end. Hopefully we all make it.
Yeah, it's a heck of a challenge, but clearly something you're incredibly passionate about.
Yeah.
Tell us about Luna Rose.
Luna, yeah, so she was born in 2022. No, sorry, not 2022. She died in 2022. And yeah, she was born with a rare condition. And
what was it called?
They didn't have a name for it.
And how did it show itself, first of all?
So we found out when she was in the womb, with all the tests she had done and stuff like that.
So you knew she'd have severe problems?
Yeah, we knew that, when we were going for all the scans and stuff. So...
Is that Luna Rose there we're seeing?
Yes, yeah, that is. And
with
that's her
Mum?
mum, Sam. Yeah, beautiful little girl.
Absolutely beautiful, yeah. And as I was just saying to you during the break, what a beautiful name.
Yeah.
How did you happen upon that?
Don't know, I think that was my missus chose that, so...
Well done her.
Yeah,
it's so memorable as well, and that's important for you as well, isn't it? Because, very sadly, in the end, she died after what sounds like she put up a good fight.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. She always done it with a smile on her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was an amazing little girl.
So is there, this is an incredibly rare disease. Is there hope? Is it even the beginnings of research into this that you can help fund?
Not that we found, no, just because it was that rare. There's no funding for it, so it was just,
So in that sense, the money you're raising is going to just help disabled children with socialising and
so where Luna used to go to school, Child Heritage Foundation is a school for children with complex needs, and it's an amazing place, and they go above and beyond to get these kids' full potentials. So
I was going to say that for her age, actually, going to school must have been quite something anyway.
Yeah.
But very good for her, I imagine, especially if they can cope.
Yes, definitely. And they've got a swimming pool there. So Luna used to go to the class called Aqua Movers, and they get all the kids in the pool, and so they can swim freely and use their muscles because they can't usually in normal life.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
It's amazing how water can help children with severe disabilities and different problems. They love the water.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids just come alive when they're in the water. It's great. Yeah.
So is this what you want to be able to sort of raise the money for, so that other children will be able to get this sort of therapy?
Yes. So the target we are going for is 20,000, and that will provide 1,000 essential hydrotherapy sessions for the kids who go to Chailey.
Right.
So, yeah.
Does it help in the idea of being able to sort of give back and support other families, and you know exactly what they're going through?
Yeah.
Does that help in terms of dealing with obviously your loss and what you're going through?
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped me massively. You know, we ran the Brighton Marathon, me and a few friends, and doing this, I just love it. Just absolutely love it.
I mean, I know that we were talking about you raising money, but Stephen and I were talking earlier on this morning about why you're doing what you're doing, and it's probably just something you feel you want to do for Luna.
Yeah, definitely. Keep Luna's name alive and just help them kids who need it most, really. So
yeah. Well, I say it's the fact it will be beneficial for other families is really important.
Yeah.
Matt, or should we just say Vince, because that's what you meant to call you. Thanks very much indeed. Best of luck.
Best of luck. Will you tell us how you get on?
Yes, I will. And if you want to follow the page, we've got an Instagram page set up, Remember Luna Rose. And if you'd like to donate or share the page, you can just go onto Google, type in rememberluna.com, and it'll take you straight there. So
perfect.
That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Right, we expect a phone call from the top of Ben Nevis.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, ring your
You can do it now, can't you? That's what's so amazing.
Yeah, best of luck, Ben.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
OK, do stick with us. Still to come, Aidan McGee will be here with all the latest sports news. That's next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Esther, can we talk about Andy Murray? Because Andy Murray has retired, which is great news. And in the papers today, his lovely wife, Kim, said, this is good, I'm glad he's retired, because he can do some childcare now and a bit of housework. But you know all about relationships. Yes. This is going to be an adjustment for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, as a father and a husband as well, Mark, that when you are at home, you are actually a big pain in the... Because you are kind of wired and you want to be doing stuff. And Andy Murray's like goal-driven. Can you imagine? He's going to be like, I'm going to make chili con carne. I'm going to make chili like this and this. And, you know, he's going to be like so focused and he's going to have so much energy. I would be terrified to live in the same house as Andy Murray. I know he kind of comes across as quite laid back, you know. He's a bit of a Sean Connery.
But actually, these people are driven, and that's not going to stop just because he's retired, right?
OK, when you've got a driven parent and the parent is at home, they're a nightmare. Yeah. So he needs to be seriously occupied. We've got to think of some hobbies.
Isn't it Kim's turn?
To have her career?
For her to be the most important person in the house.
I think she's quite into her art and painting and things like that.
So isn't it time for him to stay at home, you know, feed the kids and all that, empty the dishwasher, and let her career be the most important?
Although I doubt he'll do that. He'll have so much other stuff to do. Punditry. Maybe he'll join his mum. She has a tennis academy.
Actually, I remember there's a documentary about both of them have a hotel in Scotland. Actually, I think they co-run and I think they refurbished it. Yeah. To be fair, you know, Kim, you know, not just the hotel, but I'm sure she'll have other business ventures. You're right. I think it's the right thing to do. Clearly, you know, Andy Murray has had to be out the house. You know, probably she's had to look after the kids. I think anyone that's at the top of their game when they retire, I think the only fair thing to do is to, as you say, maybe take a step back and support your wife.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.